This episode of Limit Break Radio is made possible by our generous Patreon donors, including Mellow Targaryen of Fairy, Midgie McMoogle of Leviathan, Volkai Nilo of Balmung. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to support Limit Break Radio, visit patreon.com/limitbreakradio.
Social media by moonlight, scheduling interviews by daylight. Roasting interns is an easy fight. She is the one named Kooky Moon. Susan Calloway is a real friend. Trolls could never offend. She is the one on whom we can depend. She is the one named Kooky. Squirrel Venus, Papa Mercury, Senpai Mars, Lloyd Jupiter. With her intern so useless to her, she is the one named Kooky Moon. Social media by moonlight, scheduling interviews by daylight. Roasting interns is an easy fight. She is the one named Kooky Moon. She is the one named Kooky Moon. She is the one Kooky Moon.
Welcome to Limit Break Radio, episode 171. This is the Nika and Friends episode. I'm here alone but not alone with my friends because friends. Hi, I have friends today. Today with me on Limit Break Radio are my awesome friends. Y'all know Strife Lightshade. Welcome back, Strife, to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. And then we also have Ionsta, who I forget your last name. Is it Sky? Is that what it is?
Sky.
Ionsta Sky from my static. I never pay attention to last names. Hi, everybody. We are here for this extremely awesomely budgeted episode of Limit Break Radio. How's it going? Everything going good?
Man,
It's going all right.
It's going all right. Okay, well, I have no idea what I'm actually doing hosting this show. Last time I did this. This is my second time doing this, I will say. Last time, though, I had Juxa. I'm not sure how much he actually did on the show that day, but he was there. This time around, our friends Aniro and Callow, along with Prince Clary and Escalia with Checkpoint Radio, are in Connecticut at the NBC Sports Studios for the Rocket League Universal Open. I will admit I know next to nothing about Rocket League. I looked it up.
it's cars with soccer.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It was like a Cars ball game or something.
There are balls involved, yes.
Like, I feel like I've seen stuff like that, like, in real life, but not with actual cars hitting the balls. It's like people on skateboards or in wheelchairs or something hitting balls. How does that even work? I don't know. I didn't even realize that this was something that had, like, a following enough to have, like, an actual e-sport.
Yeah, it kind of blew up over the last, I think it was last summer or the summer before. It like really blew up into a really big thing. That's when it went on from PC and all the consoles. It's like a really big deal. I think on Switch you can even get like a Mario and Luigi kart. Like there's a big following for it. They even played it at Buffalo Wild Wings by me the other day.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Like when I think esports, I think just like Overwatch or League of Legends.
Yeah, I heard of Rocket League once, and I thought it just disappeared, but apparently it's still super big. But it shows how much I know.
Yeah, no, it's super big. Esports is really branching out into a lot of other genres now. It's no longer just like FPS like it was back when there was just MLG. It's no longer just MOBAs like when League blew up. Now you're seeing things like, you know, MMOs with their PvP. You're seeing Rocket League and these like fun spin-off games. Like it's really cool. And you're seeing obviously like PUBG and Fortnite, the new battle royales, but it's it's good to have variety.
I mean, that is true. That's cool. Like, I mean, just the fact that all of the Checkpoint Radio guys are out there at the NBC Sports Studio. Like, I was watching a little bit of their live broadcast the other day. It's so cool, and I'm really, really excited and happy and proud that Checkpoint Radio has gotten to that point. So if those of you don't even know what I'm talking about, Limerick Radio has another actual syndicated live on the air radio show called Checkpoint Radio. It's all about gaming and esports and cool things like that, of which Aniro and Callow and former member Escalia, as well as our other friend Prince Clary, are all a part of, and that is where they are doing legit cool esports reporting. But that's not what this show is about. This is not an esports show. This is a Final Fantasy XIV show. You guys remember that game? Yeah.
Wait, what? I thought this was a Battle for Azeroth podcast. I was lied to.
No, not yet. Sorry, that's the only way I could get you here. Sorry about that.
God damn it.
So let's actually kick it over to our cool studio in FF14, which is in the Goblet 5th Ward Plot 30. If you would like to come join us, you are welcome to come be on the stream with our cool iCam that likes to just show pictures of the wall, like that beautiful wall shot we got right there. But now, yeah, our studio is cool and fun, so come on down. We're on the Sarkatana server. I should probably mention that too. Don't just go to any 5th Ward Plot 30 Goblet.
No, you do any random goblet and go there. Sure
I mean, you could, and then you could go see like what house it is and see if you like freak a bunch of people out on your server. But no, Sarkatana server is where we are. I am starting to believe we will probably not be able to take calls on this episode. I apologize for that. I don't think we have an intern readily available to screen calls, but if that changes somewhere throughout the show, I will get back to y'all. Otherwise, you get to hear Nika and Friends' lovely voice today. I'm so glad you could hang out with us. We don't have any drops or sounds or anything, and this is going to be the last time I mention that, because last time apparently we mentioned that like 8,000 times, and Aniro thought that we mentioned that too much. So this will be the one time. If you're not here at the beginning of the show, then you don't get to hear this later on. But yeah, that's why there's no sounds, no drops, no production. I don't want to see stupid trolls in the chat saying, why is there no drops or production? Blah, blah, blah. It's because Nika's doing the show today, and that's all I've got.
Oh, now we're going to see many trolls in the chat saying that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. So yeah, come join us in our studio. This will eventually be to the podcast. I don't know how long it takes to take it off of Twitch and do it all that way, but the podcast, of course, is available anywhere you can find podcasts. So if you're not here live, you can download it from any podcast site that you like to download your podcast from. Yeah, if you'd like to support our crazy ass podcast thing that we've got going on here, don't forget about our patreon.com/limbbreakradio. I believe now, I know I got my Callow postcard. I don't know, they should be arriving already. If you have not gotten it, it should be there fairly soon. This set of Patreon postcards is a little bit different than previous Patreon postcards. If you haven't been listening to... Oh, we got a donation already.
Is it time for the news yet?
No, it's not time for the news yet. Stop that. Stop it. It will be, though. We actually have a lot of news to talk about today. We do. Normally, FF14 doesn't have that much news, and OBS keeps telling me I'm blowing my mic out. I hope I'm not hurting you guys. Anyway, yeah, we actually... What?
So you did go to Reddit and grab all the fan art. That's our news for today?
No, like legitimate news.
That doesn't make sense.
I know. It's mind-boggling. This game has stuff to talk about today. I mean, some of it I think could be considered from Facebook or Reddit, but most of the news is legitimate news.
Acro fan art?
No.
I mean, if we go with the Reddit fan art, we'll be here all day.
Content. All about the content.
Super content. Anyway, what I was saying is that the postcards for this round of Patreon postcards at the $20 pledge level are a little bit different. Instead of being our FF14 characters, they are going to be the hosts that are going to be on our new Let's Be Real podcast that should be launching. When did they say it was? Sometime in September? I know they had the official release date, but it's not in the outline, so I don't get to tell you because I don't remember. So the Let's Be Real cast are going to be featured on these. So technically this last postcard was not the Callow postcard, it was the Robbie postcard. And the next, not Juxta, but Chris postcard will be coming in the next month. So if you want the Chris postcard, sign up at the $20 pledge level on patreon.com/limbbreakradio. And then maybe we'll have less episodes like this one with only me not knowing what I'm doing. Yeah, let's do that. So are either of you guys going to FanFest?
I am not.
You suck. Strife.
Absolutely not.
You were there last time.
Yep, and the only time.
Why are you leaving me?
Well, yeah, I heard you were going. I couldn't go.
What? That's not... I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. Nope. You guys suck.
I'm going to BlizzCon this year. Can't do both.
Choosing BlizzCon over FanFest.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time.
Damn. Well, I wanted to say we're hosting the most legit FanFest after party. It's going to be, I mean, I don't usually say lit, but I've been saying that for this specifically because this party is going to be L-I-T, lit. That's how you spell that for you kindergarten people out there.
Wow, you're so hip.
I'm so hip. I know. Hey, thanks for the follow. Anyway, we are doing our FanFest after party on the Friday. I know we say after party. It doesn't mean like after everything's over, in between the 2 days, so that way you can like go home, do whatever. Friday night at the freaking esports arena at the Luxor. It's so freaking cool. Like last year where we had it before was really cool, but the esports arena is going to be hosting it. I know we said there is an open bar VIP package that will be available for $55 plus the tax. I think the final cost will be $64.49. Kooky is still working on getting that the pre-order. We will hope you'd be able to pre-order the open bar VIP package. That will be coming very soon. As soon as that is available, we will let you know. It is currently not available. But the open bar package is going to have like a special VIP lounge upstairs where like the plebs who don't buy it can't access. So if you want to have that special wristband and hang out with the LBR crew upstairs in the VIP lounge, feel free to purchase that package. There will be, however, cash and carry bar. There will be food available, and to get in is free. So feel free if you like don't even want to order anything, but want to come say hi, you can just walk in and say hi. But as we were saying before, there is a very high base minimum that we must reach food and drink wise. So if you don't buy it, we're going to owe them a lot of money. So please spread the word. Somebody can grab that Facebook link off the outline, put it in the chat. We do have a Facebook link going on, a Facebook event that is shareable. You can share it to all your friends, get everybody to come. It's really cool. But yeah, the RSVP crap will be available soon. Kookie's still working on that though. So yeah, I think, and y'all suck for not being there. You don't have to have a FanFest ticket to get into this after party. That's the best part. So you can, because I know a lot of people are going to be in Vegas anyway who didn't manage to get a FanFest ticket, or you just live close enough, you're going to like drive over and it's going to be cool. You don't have to have a FanFest ticket. So you can still come, Strife and Ion, just come to the party, hang out.
It's a bit of a drive, but if you record it, I might watch it.
Well, that is, I think we should be able to do it live streamed because it is the esports arena and they do lots of cool things. They do have a stage downstairs by all the tables and stuff. And this isn't just the LBR after party. There's going to be lots of other content creators there as well, other podcasts, other FF14 content people. So a lot of us at some point during the night will be up on the stage doing live shows and podcasts for all of you people there, and I'm assuming and hopefully that we're going to be able to live stream that so you all can see the party you guys are missing out on because y'all suck. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. Anyway, yes, we do have news, so now let's take a second and go to see what is happening in Final Fantasy XIV news. Yay, on Tuesday there was an update, a hotfix type update on, I don't remember what patch number this would be called, but I think it was on Tuesday. They have changed a few things. I know our biggest bitching complaint on last week's show was about the horribly low XP from NMs in Pagos, Eureka Pagos. And now apparently they have
about on Vegas.
Yeah, they have increased the XP for NMs as well as the how many monsters it takes to kill before the NM spawns has also been reduced. So as far as I know, NM trains are back. Woo! Are we excited about this?
On the track.
Is this something we want? See, this is what it's hard. I feel like there needs to be some kind of more of a balance between Eureka right now. Like NM trains, I feel like is better than what was happening in the toxic like party community that was happening, but also NM trains are really boring. So like, does Square Enix not know how to find a balance between the two of these? Like, is NM trains a thing that we want to happen?
So,
I mean, maybe Japan loves them. I know there's quite a few.
But I know that this wasn't what they were intending when they first made Eureka, though. They were saying we didn't intend for NM trains, but now they decided to increase the XP and like basically say we fucked up, we'll put the NM train back. I don't know if that's what they were going for here.
So what were they trying to do before that? Well,
some other idea of what was going to happen, and then this just happened.
Yep,
and
so
they're like, well, that ruins all our plans.
So,
we're just going to do this.
you haven't been playing too much since Eureka Pagos came out, but basically what happened was that they were trying to not to unencourage doing NM trains, so they reduced the XP for NM. They increased how many mobs it took to spawn said NM, and then they really the best way to get XP was by chaining mobs in small parties. And the thing is that XP chains basically like it was in 11, where you would kill something and then it had a certain amount of time to kill the next thing, but it became really toxic. And if every single person in the party wasn't DPSing at any given time, you get bitched at, you get kicked from the party if you weren't doing enough DPS, blah blah blah, because like your XP per hour was the end all be all, and it became really bad.
So that sounds like a community problem, not a systems problem. So why would they try to change their system? This is so confusing. Why would they try to change their system to reduce the quality of the content and the play style? This isn't even a game anymore. This is just a waiting line, right? You're just waiting in a queue for the thing to spawn.
Basically, yeah. I mean, there's those few people that are killing the monsters, and then everyone else just stands around.
My big thing was there's not really much to entice you to actually help kill the mobs, because you could just go to where the NM spawns, let everyone else kill the things to spawn them for you while you just sat there, and then when the NM spawned, you came back and then you killed it and got basically full XP.
Yeah, and now we have Ponographic saying that the last 3 nights their train haven't been there, but then other people are saying you just did 6 hours the other day and managed to get 5 levels. So, I mean, I guess maybe it just depends on the instance. I know a lot of people still like to do parties because what's actually a really good chunk of XP is the challenge log stuff, like kill 30 monsters of ice element or whatever. And so people are still partying for challenge log and then leaving if they don't want to do the NM trains. But I don't feel like the parties that were happening, like the pure XP parties, are still happening like they were before. So I'm not really sure what their vision is here for Eureka, and I'm a little bit upset that Pagos is not different.
Right, but you know what? I guess it could be worse. At least they have these challenge log things for you to go in and have some sort of objective to go after, and then if you must keep grinding XP after you go kill NMs, that's a much better system than in the first Eureka, which was purely an NM train.
Yeah, the challenge log added was the best thing they could have done to it.
Yeah, I feel like they added a challenge log to Animos, but it was like after I was completely done with it. Like I had already been in there for so long. So I guess that's good. I don't know. I wish that they understood that this isn't exact. I'm so mad because Animos was such a good start. And then I just feel like I was like, okay, we need different spawn conditions, not just kill X mob, spawn X NM. Like they needed other objectives and other things to spawn the NMs, and we need other things to do other than just mindlessly bashing things, and they did none of that.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the average MMO player these days, they need some sort of goal, right? They need some sort of reward, some sort of objective, and if you kind of put them in something freeform like this, it's just going to reduce down to, okay, what's the most efficient way for me to blow through this because it's grindy and I want to forget about it. This is just Netflix and chill.
Yeah, basically. Pagos and chill. Anyway, there was a few other things that changed in this update. Some like random little hot fixes, but like apparently I don't even understand what this meant. There's some achievement requirement you need to meet for Deep Dungeon, and it's going to display if you haven't met it. I actually don't know what achievement that is referring to. You need an achievement to enter Deep Dungeon? I'm not entirely sure. Do you guys have any idea? No, I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. I'm not sure. Here's the biggest issue, and I didn't even realize this was happening, but apparently in Rathalos X mode, if somebody left the party, normally if you queue up and someone leaves, they get that 30-minute penalty or whatever. Apparently, if you then click recruiting members, but then somebody else leaves, everybody who left after that first person was also incurring this penalty. Just in Rathalos X, and it became this big issue because that's not really fair.
It's weird. I knew that if someone left the party and then you leave the party and someone joins as you are zoning out, you still get the penalty. But I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's apparently what was happening. And that if you like had set like, okay, I want to refill the party, then it started. Oh, yeah. I'm going to interrupt myself for a second and say Skuro is now here for screening calls. So if you would like to call in and talk about this, you're more than welcome to, but it can only be through Discord. So it's limitbreakradio.com/Discord. So if you are interested in calling into the show, you're welcome to, but only on Discord today. Anyway.
Also people duty finder EX primes?
Apparently they do, because this wouldn't affect if you went in with a full party, which is probably why I hadn't realized this yet. So then what happened is that everyone would get the penalty. So they looked into it and they're like, okay, if we were going to try to fix this, this would affect every single piece of content across the zone, like across the game. It would affect everything. So instead, for now, they've actually turned off the recruit more party members feature just for Wrath of Los X. And they will continue to look into that in the future. So if someone leaves, everyone just has to leave.
Sounds like Square Enix.
You're saying that Square Enix programmed themselves into a corner. Can't get their way out? Huh. Seems strange.
Yeah, that's totally new. Nothing ever like this happened before.
Yep, they just didn't want to mess everything up, so they're like, we will continue investigating and turn off the party fill. So that means if someone leaves your party in a duty finder group, you're just gonna have to leave and requeue. Have fun, guys. There's a bunch of bugs to Pagos that were fixed, and another Heaven on High thing, because apparently traps and horde pieces could appear in random ass places around the zone that were not actually accessible by your feet. So that was a thing that they fixed apparently. But that was the entire hotfix patch. So hopefully they fixed like all the things that you hoped and dreamed would be fixed in the current iteration of this game. Yay. Okay, yes, I don't know. That's all I've got. All right, moving on. We have gosh, I was like looking at Discord and got distracted. This is a great show, guys. I should host every show. This is fantastic.
Tombstones.
This is why we
Tombstones.
can't have nice things.
Well, it's hard because I'm trying to like look at the chat on my phone and then look at Discord and look at this. Anyway, I'm glad you guys are here listening to this shit show. Hi, all right, we got a little update about what's gonna happen to Tombstones. Literally, it's all the same shit that happens every time we get a new Tombstone, but these new Tombstones are gonna be called Tombstones of Genesis.
Wow, only the 10th Tombstone's called Genesis?
Yeah, isn't Genesis like being like the beginning?
The beginning.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose Genesis. Maybe it's the beginning of a new tome system. Yeah, no, it's not. I don't know why.
It's literally the last tome of this expansion.
Yeah, that's true.
Long story short, there's no news here. This is just what they always do, right?
I don't even know what this we're talking about.
I think the only thing of note here, guys, is that poetics are now for level 60 stuff too, not just 50.
That's true, because I think they're like completely cutting out any other tomes that were originally obtainable up to 60, right? So now poetics is just going to be.
They did that already, didn't they?
It was. I don't think so. I think currently there's still another tome. Is it? Which ones are going to be deleted? The Verity tomes?
Poetics, Creation, and Mendacity are the ones that are out. You could buy like the 60 stuff with Poetics at the beginning of the expansion.
Oh, I don't know. That's what it said in the little blog post thingamajigger. And I see everyone's telling me to talk slower. I actually talk fast on a regular basis. I'm sorry. I will talk slower. Anyway. Yes, I don't know. It was in the blog thingy that says that Poetics will now be obtainable up to level 60. So that's what I'm reporting on because that's what it said. Otherwise, they're getting rid of Verity completely. So like if you want to keep those tomes, if you for some reason have Verity tomes on you, turn them into Creation or they will be gone forever. And then Creation tomes are no longer gotten from duties and stuff. It's going to be Mendacity or Genesis. So fun times indeed. Okay. The 14-hour anniversary stream is back. Are you guys excited? Dun dun dun. I don't know. You guys ever watch those streams?
No.
Occasionally.
Okay.
I will say this: they have an excellent blog post from like little notes from the developers on their site right now. So if you guys just like seeing what the developers are thinking and like. It's just basically them giving thanks and kind of have a little blurb about what they do for the company. I thought that was really cute. Cool. Definitely check it out. That's
cool. This 14-hour broadcast stream is going to be on Friday, August 31st at 8 p.m. Pacific time. There's two different broadcasts. There's the main broadcast available on YouTube, Twitch, and Nico, but the secondary broadcast is only available on Nico, which is kind of hard to use as an American person because that is only in Japanese language. But anyway.
I just use people on Discord to freak out about the things I should be excited about.
That's true. And I know that they're going to have like some stuff on the Twitter and some stuff on the official forums, and it's probably not going to be that bad if you don't watch it or can't understand Japanese. But basically the stream's going to start at 8 p.m. Pacific on Friday, August 31st. It's going to kick off with the producer from the live letter, part 46, XLVI. It's going to give the patch 4.4 preview part 2. I know we got the part 1 a little bit ago. This is going to be the part 2. We're going to have, and somebody is jumping around on the outline and blocking everything I need to say with their stupid name. So stop it, whoever's doing that. It will have special guest Saki Takayanagi, who is one of the quest designers for the game, as well as the ever-anticipated miscellaneous announcements. I know we all want those miscellaneous announcements. So exciting.
So let's pause here. What do you guys think? FF7 or something else for the next raid? That's what they're going to show off, right?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, come on, they're incredibly formulaic, so it's got to be, right?
Oh, I think absolutely. Because if they miss out on the opportunity to have, like, because, let's look at Xdeath and Kefka. They've had 2 forms, right? They have, like, the first baby form, and then the X mode one has the, like, Savage mode has the secondary form. Yeah. So I can't imagine with, like, Sephiroth and Save for Sephiroth that they wouldn't take that same opportunity. Like, he's got the big angel wing, like, octopus shit going on.
Right.
Well, I have 2 opinions on that. One is I feel like the last chapter is going to have to be Omega because that's what it's all leading up to.
That's why I'm confused, because we have Omega, and Omega's goal in this stupid-ass story is to create a tournament of strong people to find the strongest people to better itself by fighting, right? So if we don't end up stronger than everyone and then fighting Omega, then what's the point?
Yeah.
But it would be a waste to put Sephiroth in the third one.
There's always a chance that they're just going to shelf Sephiroth for later. Because I'm assuming at this point we have, 3 or 4 last bosses? So we still have quite a few to go through. And I feel like
all I ever
hang on
hear
one
is
sec.
hi during this dream.
Before Final Fantasy VII kind of thing. Because Omega was in Final Fantasy V and probably in Final Fantasy VI. I'm not big. I like Final Fantasy VI, but I haven't played really much of it. So I feel like if anything, they would probably go backwards.
Maybe. I don't know. I just feel like with the 5 then 6 iteration, I don't know where else they would put Sephiroth. Like using a person who is like, hey, we are going to make up characters from fairy tales and put them into reality and fight them. What easier way to put previous Final Fantasies in than that? And I feel like FF5 and 6, while they're fantastic, like not as many people have played 5.
I don't know, maybe Garlemald will start a Genova project.
I mean, maybe. I mean, honestly, that would be a cool way to tie in Genova, but I don't know how they would get Sephiroth. Like, I really like when they take things from other Final Fantasies and place them into 14's lore. That kind of stuff is actually really cool.
Yeah, like the Electra company for Garlemald is probably the Shinra company.
Okay, that would be kind of cool, actually. And they could find a way to put Genova into it, but Sephiroth directly, I feel like would make more sense in something like Omega. But I still feel like it would be a waste to put Sephiroth in the 3rd tier and then put Omega as the 4th tier. So I don't know. I'm still leaning like 90% that the next tier is going to be FF7. I don't know.
Yeah, also, the thing you said before was it's kind of like a tournament. So like I feel like the last tier might be like the finals into going into Omega instead of just like another Final Fantasy game tier.
Yeah, but there's no way that's not what they're going to do. I mean, some people have said maybe they'll do Sephiroth, Ultimecia, Kuja, and then Omega, but I don't see that being a thing either.
Yeah, I also don't see them blowing a bunch of big names at once either.
Right. By the way, Nika, we should thank the last donation.
Yeah, we should. We talked over it. I know, and like Skirl's like, everyone should open the Twitch alerts. Guess what? They can't open Twitch alerts. They don't have the LBR Twitch login. This is a different show, okay? So yeah, thank you for that last donation. Where they said they just hear hi during the live stream. Yes, that is exactly what happens during that live stream. But that's a thing in Japan. That's how they kind of let you know that they're continuing, that they're understanding that they're actually listening to the conversation. So don't make fun of them. It's a thing.
Yes, Nika. Yes, Nika. Yes.
Okay, but don't do that on the stream because that's kind of obnoxious also.
Bye.
It's cultural.
Bye.
But like that donation was saying, the audio is only in Japanese. There will not be a translator for this. But the key points of the live letter will be available on the English Twitter, which is, I think, FFXIV_EN during the broadcast. So if you can't understand anything in Japanese, you can just watch the Twitter account. And I'm sure at some point it'll probably also be on the official forums. I feel like they're pretty good at keeping it updated there, too. So you can check that out. On the live stream, there's also going to be a Voices of Light segment. They're going to have 3 awesome voice actors from the Japanese version of the game. They're going to have, Marie Miyake, who is Serena's voice, Itaru Yamamoto, who plays Bunshin, the Turtle Beastman guy, and Grinawat, and also Yu Sugimoto, who plays Moonbrita and Vidofnir. In the Japanese version. I feel like these are such side character voice actors. It seems kind of silly, but I mean, that's cool, I guess. Maybe Grinawat is like really cool in Japanese. I don't know. And really funny. Because like he's kind of funny in English. But
yeah, I mean, Vidofnir wasn't that much of a side character, were they?
Oh, no. But I mean, and Moonbrita hasn't been around since like forever. But I just feel like if you're going to get any Stormblood voice actors, I mean, Serena, I guess, is okay. But like, you know, getting like Hien or Yugiri or Elise. No, let's just get Moonbrita.
But money.
So I don't know. Maybe they're not available. Maybe they're like super famous voice actors in Japan and they don't have time for something petty like a 14-hour stream.
Moonbrita died in Air Realm Reborn.
She was still in like the 2.0 generation, wasn't she?
Wasn't she like the girl who got freaking wrecked by a Norelis, or is that someone different?
Moonbrita is the Femro who was really OP that Urianger was obsessed with. And
2.4.
Yeah, she died.
She did. Wrecked. No, she was too OP, so they had to kill her. That's why she died. Because she came in with this whole like, I've been researching the Ascians for a million years, and I have this cool bottle that can suck them all in, and then we'll never have to deal with Ascians again. And
Parasite.
That thing. And the devs decided that she was too OP, so they killed her. That's what happened.
Nika, you don't even know her lore. You're her big.
I do know her lore. It's just that's what it felt like. It felt like
a
a genie in a bottle thing. So it's just what I've been rolling with for a while. So that's my nice comparison and connection. Okay, it's a connection. It's good. So that's exciting. They also have Alienware seems to be sponsoring or product placing themselves into the stream. There are 2 streams brought to you by Alienware, by the way. The first one is a PvP section. A PvP section of the live stream was apparently there is a Feast Regional Championship. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a little bit. But on the stream, they're going to be introducing you to the teams battling in the semifinals of the Feast Regional Championship on the Japan side of it. It would be kind of cool if they had also mentioned like teams from all over the world. But apparently, this is only going to be the Japanese teams. They're also going to bring a comedian in Japan named Nishimura Baby, and he's going to be joining the stream as they jump into some high-quality, action-packed PvP. So I don't know if they're going to have this comedian on there, like, making jokes as they're doing PvP or something, which would probably be hilarious if we all spoke Japanese. But I think it's kind of cool. I can't remember if PvP's ever been a section of the live letter or the live stream in previous years. The 14-hour broadcast. I don't think so. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, not to my knowledge. You know, it's interesting though that Alienware is sponsoring it. They've been doing this a lot. Like a lot of companies like Alienware and other OEMs, like other PC manufacturers, they tend to do this now for a lot of esports and online games. Whenever there's some sort of a competitive LAN segment where people are actually sitting down on machines and playing, especially if it's broadcast, they always want to have a sponsor. That way they can donate hardware so that the company can have hardware to do the LAN and the stream that's really good. And then they get product placement, basically. So it's a pretty common thing. It's good to see that even in Japan, they're doing this now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of cool, I guess. Then I can't ever remember how these Yoshi P's rooms... Oh, donation?
Yeah, that high-quality PvP content.
High quality. Though, thank you, Old Wargoat, for that cheer. It is high quality. Well, high quality PvP sometimes happens. I don't know.
No, that's not in this game. Nika, you're good.
It doesn't exist.
But they're doing a tournament. It's a legit esport now.
No. I can go on and on about this, but the game is not designed for competitive PvP.
I feel the game's too slow for PvP.
We watched it at FanFest, though. Remember? It was kind of cool. Like, Joe Never Fails was up on the stage narrating with, what's-his-face, Matalos. It was cool.
Nika, if you saw almost any other big-name MMO's PvP, you would shit yourself.
Probably, but...
Put it this way. I'll just be very quick about this. Basically, there's 2 pieces here. One, the global cooldown being so long at 2.5 seconds, right? And number 2, the animation lock that can occur. Those 2 things prevent reaction time from being as big of a part of PvP as it needs to be. So when you have these very hyper fast matches, the fact that you only have 4 people on your team and they don't have that many crowd control abilities, right? There's only like 2 or 3 each. Like Black Mage Sleep, for example, is just so much overpowered than any other crowd control, I think, in the game right now for PvP, if I remember correctly. The fact that you only have 1 or 2 classes with really, really good CC, and the fact that you have a slow combat pace with animation lock and other things that can stutter your reaction time, and the fact that this game in particular, and I don't think anyone can argue this game in particular does not run as smoothly on bad connections as other online titles, so you feel it a lot more. So when you combine all these factors together, it makes for an incredibly piss-poor PvP experience.
All right, that sounds
I feel it works
fair.
fine on a casual level, but any sort of like competitive is kind of Mario Party level of competitive.
Well, they're doing a competition, though. I feel like that's something.
I mean, I could have a Mario Party tournament. It doesn't mean it's made for competitive play.
Oh no, dude! You're gonna like burn a hole in the center of your hand if you do the N64 one.
Oh, I actually did.
That's why I have gloves.
Back in the day, playing the tug of war game on Mario Party with the N64, and you have to like rotate the stick. I actually ripped off like 2 or 3 layers of my skin, and then we went on vacation, and I went horseback riding, and that was the most painful shit ever. Oh yeah. Oh, anyway. Yeah, well, okay. I believe you, but I have not watched other MMOs PvP, and I feel like it's kind of cool that they're trying to make this a competitive esport thing, but you're probably right. This would never hold a candle up to any other MMOs PvP. But
yeah, that's the problem. Like if you've seen the other ones, it doesn't look cool, doesn't look like hopeful or motivational. It just looks like, oh, how sad for you. Like that's unfortunately the perspective of me and I think a lot of other people.
Yeah. Oh well. Well, they're trying. Let's give them a pat on the back. And these Japanese regional teams who think that they're cool, I guess. The live stream also includes Yoshi P's room. I'm just trying to remember how this part went in the past. They always have a Yoshi P's room, where he has guests and talks to them. The first Yoshi P's room is going to have a mystery guest. I feel like last year's also had a mystery guest. I don't recall who it was. I wonder who it will be this time. Dun dun dun. I don't know. That's part of it. Then NGC, NGC's FF14 segment, which is also sponsored by Alienware, with hosts Edo-san and Fumichi. I don't know who those people are, but they are doing another 14 segment completely brought to you by Alienware. I don't know what that topic is either, so you have to tune in and find out. Yoshi P's Room Part 2 has the special guest from the Capcom producer of Monster Hunter World, Ryozo Tsujimoto. So they are going to talk about the Monster Hunter World collaboration crossover, which could be super interesting. I don't know if anyone's going to be translating or putting the high points of that into English, but that would be really cool to see. And then, of course, closing remarks. So that is the main broadcast, which again begins on Friday, August 31st at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube, Twitch, and Nico Nico. But then there's going to be that secondary broadcast where like that one guy is always doing some fun random ass challenge at the same time of the live broadcast. But this is only going to be available on Nico Nico, so I'm not sure how easy it will be for us to watch. This year, Hiroshi Takai is doing a Treasure Hunter 1 million Gil Lost Canals of Uznair challenge. So I guess he's going to be doing just literally Lost Canals of Uznair to see how much Gil he can get during that 14-hour stream. As well as during that time, Soken will be on to announce the final results of the fan favorite music poll for that fan favorite CD to be sold at FanFest. I actually totally forgot to vote in that poll, and I'm kicking myself now because it's closed. I'm pretty mad.
That's it, Nika. Your vote mattered.
Did you vote? No. See?
I did not even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I actually had the tab open, and I was like, because as I was doing this outline, I was like, oh, that's a thing. Let me go see if I can still vote, and voting closed on August 10th. So, whoops.
Honestly, I like all his music, and I don't see the point in picking a favorite among fans.
Well, it's because they're making a CD of just the fan favorites to sell at FanFest. So it's like a CD called like Best of 14 or Favorites of 14 or something, and they're selling that. So he's announcing all the ones that got the most votes because those are the ones that are going to go on the CD.
But if you own all his CDs, you would just make a playlist. This is confusing.
I mean, that's true, but I think people, I know they like to sell all these Blu-ray CDs
to
for fans.
people.
Yeah, it is.
Seems like a money grab.
I buy all the Primal CDs, but I don't buy like all the soundtrack CDs. So maybe I'll buy the best of favorite one. I don't know. Yeah, FF14 mixtape. Miri Kennett. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, so those are the 2 streams, and that's about all I've got to say about that. Recently, the newest Tales from the Storm has been released. Those are the little lore stories that take place aside from the game. I think they're doing those up until the 4.4 release. The newest one is called The First Step. It is a story from Ehrenwald's point of view as he takes control of a new unit of fighters. I'm a little, a lot of us were confused last time after the Lakshmi thing happened and Ferdola was there, and then all of a sudden we stuck Ferdola in her cage, and then we never talked to Ferdola again.
Of her own free will because she didn't like being judged by everybody.
I mean, sort of, but she wasn't really allowed to stay out there either. I know she's always had the option to be executed.
No, she literally was like, "I'm going back to my cell now because I don't want to be here."
That's true. Because everyone was like, even though she helped, they were
I
hesitant.
think maybe before she went back to the cage, the guy was like, "I can't forgive you, but I will thank you for saving us." I think maybe that might have rubbed onto her.
Yeah, I think the whole point here, the reason they had to do this story is because, they only have a limited window to tell the after story of the expansion, right? They have 5 patches, and let's be honest, the last 2 are more about what's coming up than it is what already happened. Yeah. And since they have this split story for Stormblood between Alamigo and Doma, since they moved us onto the Doma and the Garlean part of the conflict, they didn't really have time to kind of finish tying out all the loose ends, or tying up, all the loose ends of the Alamigo story. And I think that doing a short story like this is a fantastic way to make sure you tie up those loose ends and prepare for the future, because it's just not possible, I don't think, to tell every story you want to tell if you're trying to do proper world building.
I understand that, and I do really like these side stories. I think they're cool, and I remember they used to do them in 11, and they stopped doing it, and then they have done some for 14 originally and stopped doing it, and they've been doing a couple different iterations of these over the FF14 cycle. I think they're cool ideas, and I like reading them. I just don't necessarily think that their pacing has been good otherwise. We've complained a lot on this show about Stormblood's pacing in general, about how it was all billed as this whole take back Alamigo, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you save 2 entire regions within the first expansion set of quests. And then all of a sudden now we're just slowly building up random drama. The whole Yotsuyu amnesia thing, that didn't need to happen. Her story was wrapped up. It didn't need any of that. And I just feel like they could have, honestly, I think because it took us 3 patches to kill Nidhogg. It took us all the way until 3.3 to do that. And I feel like it should have taken us until 3.3 to liberate Alamigo. And I feel like that would have kept us in there a lot longer. And then it would have been able to use Ferdola and other characters that have just kind of been shoved out of the spotlight in more meaningful ways.
I feel almost the opposite. I think
really?
Heaven's Ward took too long to kill Nidhogg, too long to wrap up the story. It was just dragged out and slow. I loved the story because I loved that dark fantasy, vibe that Heaven's Ward gave off, and the Gothic architecture and all that cool stuff. But it just took way too long to get through the wrapping up the story. It felt like nothing was wrapped up when 3.0 launched at the end of it. 3.1 was meh, and then 3.2 and 3.3 felt like they finally were wrapping up the story, but it just dragged on and on and on. This time around, and it might be the effect that they have 2 different stories going, the Doma and the Alamigo, but I felt like the pacing was much faster this time around, which personally I was okay with.
Maybe. I mean, I know a lot of Heaven's Ward drop, which we've talked about also past on the show, was the Warriors of Light, and where they kind of Warriors of Darkness. And they came in and they did a whole bunch of crazy things. And then they were just kind of also just pushed aside for a few patches. And then they came back with all this jaw-dropping revelations that all of a sudden there's other worlds and darkness falling worlds and things we should actually be paying attention to. And now that story has completely been forgotten in order for our own petty little squabble in Alamigo.
The events of I think it was 3.1 and maybe 3.4, whatever the 2 patches were that mainly involved the Warriors of Darkness, was just completely irrelevant to the overall plot.
Yeah, which I feel, to me, the fact that there are other worlds out there that are falling to light or falling to darkness is really fucking important in terms of the universe. And I feel that should have been introduced in literally the last expansion that they were ever going to do in this game. Because that would give us something to do outside of Eorzea, outside of Hydaelyn, something to do beyond ourselves. And then it's just kind of weird to drop all that information and be oh, by the way, we're going to go liberate one tiny nation when there's worlds that need saving. I feel it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to remember, I'm going to give Square a little bit of credit here. It is really difficult when you're trying to create an MMO to build a world versus tell a single story. And I think one of the weaknesses in Square's storytelling is that they focus, and it's also their strength actually, they focus so much on this linear story that you're playing through, the MSQ basically, that they don't always give as much attention, I feel like, to world building, to the side stories, to the lore, to the different people in this world. And I think that you're right, they misstep in terms of they put out storylines that are awkward or don't really make sense. If they were able to just separate the MSQ a bit better from these other stories, like that Warriors of Darkness thing could have been a series of side quests we go on and discover. It didn't have to be part of the primary plot. The
That's
things
true.
that are happening with the things that are happening with Doma and Alamigo, some of them could have been short side stories where, as a different thread, you have to build a world. And I hate to bring it up, but that's basically why WoW gets criticized so much for its storytelling, is because they tend to tell so many different small short stories and have all these different threads that they tend to be weaker overall than a lot of games when it comes to the primary plot. And that's because they spend so much time telling so many different stories. And I think if Square Enix wants to go down not the same route, but like a route where they tell more stories in general, things like these novels, things like what they're doing now with the whole Alamigo and then going to Doma, they have to keep experimenting with this, and they have to keep trying different media. I don't know whether it should be novels or comics. I think it really depends on the story they want to tell, but they definitely need to start branching out. More side quests and expansion help, more novels help, more comics help, anything they can do to keep building the world. Because right now, I feel like their world building's kind of weak. I think their main story's strong, although you could argue Stormblood's quite a bit weaker than the previous ones. But I think that their world building is weak, and this could be a sign, if I'm being optimistic, of that improving.
I hope so. And I mean, and you're right, because I feel like Square Enix really suffers on the side quests. Like, I don't think they realize, hopefully they realize that their side quests most of the time are really lame, and that they only have, like, you know, the ones that actually have story in them have a little picture on them when you click on the side quest. But there's like side quest bloat in this game. I still haven't completed all the Stormblood side quests. And
There was actually an article, I believe it was last night or this morning, an interview with the developers about side quests.
Yeah, I did briefly look through that. I didn't have enough time to put that onto this outline because it was so recent. But they did talk about how a lot of like the job quest things, how people like they were so disconnected. Like a lot of people, like they're like, oh, the theme of this quest is, or theme of this expansion is like this of Heaven's Word is like dark fantasy. So like half the quests all revolved around revenge, and so they're like, this time we'll let people do it, work on it a different way. I just don't feel like they have much, like they don't talk very much between the different like quests. Like the people that are working on the side quests and job quests are clearly not the same people working on the main storyline.
They also basically admitted that the side quests are there to gain XP and to take a short amount of time. They're not really there for story content. They're not really there for world building. They admitted that. They're just there to generate.
But why did they make that decision? I feel like that's such a bad decision because, like we said, we could do so much within side quests, but instead they're like, oh, hi, you're the warrior of light that's literally saved 3 worlds. Like, go and fetch me some boar meat.
Yeah, this is not...
Go fetch a wine for my wife.
Yeah, this is not a justification, but everything based on their interview smells of lack of resources or bad management.
Yeah, or both.
Yeah.
It just really sucks because, like, I mean, I know I've bitched about it a million times, not in front of you guys, but just the fact that, like, in the monk storyline quests, I'm sure the people that are listening to LBR are so sick of me whining about this. But, like, there was an entire thing where Vidergelt reinstates the Fists of Ralgr and he becomes this presence in Alamigo. And yet all the main story quests where Lisa's like, let's get all of the big presences in Alamigo, like right before Lakshmi, to gather and discuss the future of this. Vidergelt's nowhere to be found. So I'm like, why would you have such an important thing happen in the monk story quest and then not allow it to be visible anywhere else? To me, that's just really poor management of quest creation, and that makes me sad.
It just feels awkward. I think they admitted that they have 800 something or 900 something quests in each expansion.
Yeah, like by the end of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, compared to similar online games, that's a fraction of what's normally done.
Really?
And I think that, yeah, what happens is the main scenario quests for FF14 take quite a bit of time, which they admitted they designed them purposely that way.
Right.
And they're very story heavy, but then they don't do anything involving the story for 90% of the side content, and they just generate very quickly, low budget, and they kind of throw it out there. And that's a problem. I mean, look at it. When you level a second job, for most people, you've probably done almost every side quest already.
Yeah,
You don't have
I
anything to do.
purposefully don't. So like if my level passes a level of a quest, I'll purposefully will save it for the next quest or for the next job. Like I still have a couple level 67 sitting around that I'm going to do on like last couple jobs I have left, but
Yeah, it's just fucking mind blowing because like there's so much potential there. Like in another game where you don't switch jobs on one character and you would have to create a new character, you wouldn't really worry about some of these problems because they wouldn't be as obvious because, oh, well, the same quests are still there when I level this other character. But in 14, a game where one person is going to do so much, like one character is just going to participate in so many activities, you'd think that they would be even more conscious of this problem, and they're not.
yeah, I'm hoping that because they actually brought out this interview that this interview happened because people are complaining about this, and I hope that they realize that this is something that needs to shift.
They need to do something because right now FF14 is always praised as out of the big 5 MMOs right now, they're the one that gets like really, really big thumbs up for like their main scenario, right? For their story. And that's kind of their shtick, right? That's kind of 14's thing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That and the pretty animations. But the problem is their competitors are actually catching up. There are other companies hiring professional like authors to come in and run their creative teams.
Yeah.
Like Blizzard just hired Christy Golden, who's been a New York Times bestseller every year for the last like decade. She's done Star Wars, she's done Warcraft novels since Vanilla WoW and Warcraft 3. She's done all kinds of different fantasy stuff, and she's now their creative lead. She's now there doing writing. They develop tech to have your character in the game just like 14 does. If Square doesn't watch it, there's going to be problems.
I didn't realize that.
And as Nate and I think Kahlo have talked about previously, you know, ESO for a single player experience also does a fantastic job of storytelling the same way any normal Elder Scrolls game would do. So like between all these different competitors, like doing better storytelling, hiring professionals to do all this writing, something's wrong here. Not only is there a lack of side stories and world building, but the main scenario, as is seen by popular opinion, right? Like Stormblood, is getting weaker and weaker and weaker.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I don't know if I have anything else to add to that. That I didn't realize other companies were doing that, and that does scare me a little bit. I mean, I made sure to say in that like survey that Square Enix put out a little while ago that like there's a whole section that was asking about 14, and I was like, the story is good, but these things are failing. Like, and don't forget the story is what you guys do best, and I hope you guys continue to focus on this, and I hope that they understand that that's like a thing that they really should be shining on, and now people are starting to overtake them. And I feel like if other MMOs can now match 14 in story, what does 14 have over them? Because it's clearly not its raid content. So
yeah, I mean, an expansion just launched where the beginning of it was multiple cutscenes, more than a game has ever had besides 14 at the launch of like an intro. Had a novel launch telling the innermost like desires and thought processes of the 2 leaders of factions, had a big in-game event, brought a character back that we haven't seen in years to talk about her dead father and like the trouble and conflict she's dealt with over the last 20 years. Brought a whole seaside town and decided to tell stories that would make The Witcher 3, Pirates of the Caribbean, and like H.P. Lovecraft like turn their head, because that's basically what they based it on. Like the fact that
sounds so good.
It's fantastic. Basically, the Alliance zones in Battle for Azeroth are a mix of Witcher 3, Pirates of the Caribbean, and H.P. Lovecraft. It's incredible. So my point is, and again, that's not to knock other MMOs. I know ESO does a great job. I actually dabbled a little bit with ESO, playing just solo, kind of through some story quests. Some of that writing is fantastic. Some of it is not. It depends where you go. But overall, pretty good job. Same thing I'd say if I played Skyrim or Oblivion, probably. But again, even I haven't played much Guild Wars 2, but from the people I know that play it, the living story tends to vary. But even that has some really, really cool story moments, although lately a lot of criticism because of the drama that you guys have already talked about. If every game keeps improving their storytelling and games keep adding more and more world building and quest content, for the people that are into story and world building and cinematics, what's 14 have in the next 3 years, 4 years? I don't see it.
Yeah, because that's something that like I continue to play the single player Final Fantasies for, is the world building and the characters and the storytelling. And I feel like that's something Final Fantasy games have always had. And yeah, now 14 is getting outshone, and I'm just not sure where it's going to be in a couple years. Like, a lot of it's getting predictable, a lot of it's getting silly, a lot of it's being paced poorly, and I just...
And their competitors are rising up. They're like, oh, you want a game with a better main story? Okay, let's work on that. And like they're literally having game companies create tools to do the kind of cheaper, quicker cinematics that 14 does.
Yeah.
Scary.
It is. And I'm sad. Like, oh, man, okay, maybe we should just move on before I get too sad.
Well, we'll see where they go in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, and it's just, I really want to say that I'll always be there to support and love everything that Final Fantasy games in general throw at me, but I'm legitimately worried.
Honestly, I mean, it's great to love a product, it's great to love things, but don't fool yourself, right? Like if something's not working for you, don't sit there and struggle, right? Move on to the next thing and hope that they get better. You can still be a fan while recognizing you don't like something.
If it sucks, take a step away from it for a while, and maybe they'll realize that they're screwing up and they'll fix it.
I hope so. But I mean, Yoshi P has been quoted in the past saying, okay, you don't want to play this for a while, step away and come back. Like, he's actually said that. So I don't know if there'll ever be a way where he
all
realizes
we can say
this.
is we see.
Oh my God. People in the chat saying it sounds like...
There will always be more MMA.
We're giving a eulogy to 14, apparently, according to the chat. Yeah, maybe.
Square Enix.
Rip Square Enix 14. No.
Rip Yoshi P.
Yeah. Anyway, the next cool apparently thing that happened, we're going to go back to the PvP a little bit, because there was a blog post announcing the regional prelims for the North American region of the Feast tournament. When did they even announce there was going to be a Feast tournament? Like, I think
it was either the last live letter or the one before. They talked about it. They gave the dates out pretty early. Basically, it was just, I think they took between a certain date range, like July and August something. They took the top X teams, and they basically went, all right, you guys qualify. Now they have to do an actual tournament with them.
Okay, so there wasn't an actual like prelim tournament. It was just like, we're going to look at the ranks for prelims and then have a tournament?
Correct. There was no actual tournament yet.
But there's going to be. Okay, because I hadn't actually even heard much about it until I saw this blog post or this post on the Lodestone. But I guess that's kind of cool. There's like 3 NA teams. I guess it's like 3 teams for each region. I'm not sure how many regions there are. I know they're going to be announcing the Japanese ones on that 14-hour live stream. They announced the 3 NA teams, which are Synergy 6, This Isn't 3X, and Trash Tears. Those are the 3 NA teams. I guess that's really cool. I don't know. Do you have like, when you have Feast rankings in the game, do your teams actually have names in 14? Can you name your teams? Or is it like, I don't know. I didn't think you could name your Feast teams. Unless they're just like, hey, what's your team's name? And they just like emailed it to them. Yeah,
I'm not really sure. I mean, I know there is a system to queue up as a team versus solo, but I haven't done that.
So then, I'm not really sure, but I do know, apparently, according to some people I know who PvP, there were a lot of other teams that had qualified in the top section, but they were doing some illegal stuff. And there's actually a disclaimer on the Lodestone page that says teams that were doing like cheating or win trading or other illegal activities to qualify were disqualified. So I'm not sure how many of these 3 were in the top before, but they were all the ones who were in the top legitimately, which is kind of sad that people are still doing shit like that in Feast, and it kind of turns me away from ever wanting to try it. But
it's important to some people to win these tournaments.
Yeah, I don't know, but is it important enough to like cheat? Is that something that needs to be done? Cheating in order to win this? I don't know.
No, I don't think cheating should need to be done, but I think that if cheating is that common and win trading is that common, then Square needs to do something about their system. And if the population is causing the problem to be worse, then they need to get more people in. So they need to convince them somehow, some way, right?
That's true.
Agreed.
Do you have something to say, Owen?
Agreed.
Oh, agreed. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's cool. They're announcing the 3 NA teams, but that's cool if you guys want to follow that. I mean, I guess I'll try to follow the Feast tournament. I don't know if they're going to like stream it or anything. I tried looking at the Lodestone post for this, and really all I could find was that these 3 teams have qualified. I could not find like rules for the tournament or dates for the tournament or anything actually pertaining to the tournament. The links at the bottom of the Lodestone were just like how to play the feast and where to go to join the feast and what to do because feast is a thing. None of them actually talked about the tournament specifically, so unfortunately I don't have any more information or dates about when this tournament is taking place, but I will try to follow this tournament, and hopefully it will feel like a successful esport, although like we said before, it probably doesn't play like other MMOs PvP. But I mean, I will say when we watched the PvP tournament at FanFest, it was cool. I mean, granted, being at FanFest, there's hype and there's, the whole atmosphere going on, but like Joe Never Fails was up on the stage. He was narrating like as things, every time somebody got like a good kill, the entire audience would cheer. Like it felt like an esport. So hopefully, at least, even though this PvP is not the greatest compared to other MMOs PvP, hopefully this one will at least, I don't know, get some people hyped up for the feast, or maybe they'll figure out where the flaws are and fix it for next time, because I'm assuming that this is a tournament they're going to want to do regularly.
Nika, so I was there with you, right, at that fan fest with the Joe Never and the PvP thing.
I remember we were all excited, weren't we?
Yeah, it was cool. I thought it was cool at the time. Then, 2 months later, I went to BlizzCon.
Uh-huh.
And I walked in, and I went to the WoW PvP finals. I was like, oh, wow, there's like no one here for WoW Arena. It's like a 3v3 deathmatch. It's very similar to Feast. And I was just like, oh, man, I guess this isn't as popular as I thought. But I sat down because there was a streamer that was in the finals I wanted to watch. Yeah, within 20 minutes, over 10,000 people filled into that room. They had no seating in the back, nothing. And it was like a sporting event. They handed out like the clappers and all the other stuff, and people just went fucking wild for like 2 hours.
They handed out clappers?
It was oh, dude, everything. They had like everything.
Oh my God.
It was ridiculous. Like people just went nuts. There were people wearing T-shirts, like promoting like the pros on stage, and like people dancing, like jumping up on their chairs. Like it was wild. And they had a lot of Twitch streamers were invited to come and shoutcast us, so they were all on stage hanging out and doing like
cool. Oh, that's really cool. See,
sportscaster.
And like, well, I do realize that FF14 did recognize Joe Never and have him kind of up there narrating. I do feel like a lot of times, and like Mr. Happy's gotten connections through it too, but I feel like a lot of other Twitch streamers that are popular have kind of like, 14 doesn't really do a good job of bringing the community in as well. I feel like Elder Scrolls does a good job of that, at least community-wise. Like, I know people who just are like Twitter users. Like, one of my best friends is a really high Twitter user for ESO, and she gets like, she got invited out to the E3 conference. She gets free swag. Like, it's like they care about their community content creators. And I feel like 14, has picked a few off the top, but like kind of ignores the rest of us.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Square is not as receptive. And that could just be because there's more community creators in NA and they're a Japanese company. I'm not really sure.
Maybe.
But yeah, I'm not really sure. For example, there's a YouTuber actually out there that does Blizzard stuff. He got invited to do videos for the WoW channel for the returning players and new players.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so his videos are now actually on the official channel, officially sponsored by Blizz and everything. And it's so cool to see like these content creators get that kind of recognition. I just wish we saw more of it from Square's side.
Yeah, I've been playing Dark Souls, and there's this like guy Vati or whatever on YouTube who does Dark Souls videos, and then he had a sponsored one too when the new Dark Souls remastered came out, and there was this whole video that was like actually by that company with was it From Software, and it says like this is made in collaboration with Vati from YouTube, and like had his whole thing, and he was doing like an advertisement like legitimately just because he was popular on YouTube. And I feel like 14 really loses that community, at least on the side. I mean, it might just be because they're the Japanese company and they do have that. I feel like Square Enix has always had that, like, we're the stuffiest because we're the biggest and most popular game company. But I don't know if that really means that they shouldn't or couldn't bring in more community people. But I don't know. Oh, well.
Awkward.
Yeah. We got a blog post about some more QOL, quality of life stuff coming to the game in 4.4. I'm going to start with the biggest and stupidest one, which is that they are fixing their unexpansion of the expanded inventory. Yay! Like, I can't believe I even had to change this in the first place, like having all 4 of your inventory windows visible at once versus now we can only have 2 visible at once. And for someone who's as ADHD as I am and really need to see everything in my inventory to know that I actually have it, because once it's out of sight, it's out of mind. I really need that expanded inventory. It's been causing me a lot of issues. So yay, that's back. Also, a few updates to things like collectibles. You'll be able to see a collectible icon on the item icon itself rather than having to like hover over it or click on the item to see that it's a collectible. And they're also going to be adding a lot of QL to the mount and minion interfaces because, you know, you got a new minion and you want to find it and summon it, but you have no idea where the fuck it is in the entire interface. Now you can add mounts and minions to a favorites list. You can see there's now going to be a mark on the icon and the tab number to indicate the 10 newest mounts and minions obtained, so you can find the newest ones you have obtained. There's also going to be a search function. You can search for the name of the one you want, or if you're not sure what the name of it is, you can type in something like Ananta, and if it's in the description of that mount or minion, it will pop up. That's useful. At least that's good, I guess.
No fucking
Wow.
time.
This warranted a blog post?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, the QOL stuff always get a blog post, I feel like, before the expansions, whenever they're like, hey, new QOL things.
Is it just me, or do they make a bigger deal out of small, tiny quality of life changes than like serious issues?
Yes, I also agree with that. Because I also feel like the PvP thing could have been a blog post, but instead it was a big lodestone post. So yeah, I don't know.
Very nice what you're doing, guys.
Yeah. Gosh, okay, yeah. Emotes are also going to get a history section as well as a favorites list. And they had to make it a big point that it will stay there even after you log out of the game. Your history of emotes will stay because a lot of times logging out like resets your stuff in the game. Nope, not for the emote list. Good job, Square Enix. Moving up on your programming. Good job. All right, now we're going to talk about something that has been talked about before, but this was another recent article that came out about whether or not FF14 would ever be brought to the Switch. We've heard rumors of this before, but basically Yoshi P was asked if this will ever be brought to the Switch. And Yoshi P basically says it would be awesome, and he kind of called out big platform companies for separating different games and not allowing everyone to be cross-platform. He has a couple quotes here. His first one says, as to whether we'll see more Square Enix MMOs on a Nintendo platform, we're still in talks with Nintendo. I would love to do that, but for me, my policy is that you need to have cross-platform. You have this giant game, a huge world, and this huge community, and breaking them up by console, it's nonsense. He says, I want everyone to be together, and I've taken this concept to Nintendo, to Microsoft, to Sony, and explained this to them. Hopefully, someday, everybody will join hands, we'll work together, and we'll see FF14 on all of these platforms. We're working on it, we just ask the players wait, but we want to see that day come as well. Apparently, recently, Epic and Microsoft have also called out Sony for not allowing Fortnite and Minecraft players to play together across the different systems. So this is now like a big thing that everyone's saying cross-platforming should be a thing that happens. So we'll have to see now if any companies respond to any of this.
Oh, you mean like it was like 10 years ago?
Yeah, like I want to say like, because even in MMOs, like Elder Scrolls has PC and PlayStation, right? They're not. Are they cross-platform?
No, I could talk about that if you want. Basically, the majority of games that have come out since 2013, basically since PS4 and Xbox One launched, are not cross-platform between PC and consoles. Like Elder Scrolls Online, completely different servers if you're on a console versus PC. And for even non-MMOs like Diablo 3 on consoles and PC, completely different. Even some gameplay mechanics were altered because of consoles. And then it's coming out on the Switch, and we all thought because of Epic's announcement, oh, maybe D3, this will be the push, right? To make everyone get along, since Epic is also fighting for it. Nah, even Blizzard, it's like, oh yeah, no, if you're on the Switch, it's completely different, isolated just for Switch people.
Yep.
So like even new titles that aren't going to be coming out for the next 6 months to a year are still planned to be isolated.
Why?
The main reason becomes into two parts. One, infrastructure changes that were already decided when the consoles came out.
Right.
And number two, policy. So the infrastructure thing is just a technical hurdle. Basically, when you have an SDK, right? And sorry, guys, this is going to get a little technical. I'll try to be it quick. Wow, that wasn't even English. Basically, when you develop a game, right? When you develop for a certain platform, whether that's Windows or Mac or a PlayStation 4, you have an SDK. It's like a series of programming libraries that you use to target that platform. And the idea is that in these libraries is also networking stuff, right? So if you want to take advantage of the server that Sony hosts or the servers that Microsoft hosts, you can use those APIs to kind of hook into them. And then there might be some sort of fee or some other program. And the idea is that you host on their servers. Now, you don't have to manage your own servers. You don't have to manage your own infrastructure. blah, 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 blah. The idea is that it's easier for you as a developer because you get to offload all this work to Microsoft or Sony, right? Now, the problem with that is that you're then bound to their rules and their policies. If you're hosting on someone else's infrastructure, that's a problem. That's why I think Square had to have a lot of talks with Microsoft and about why they're not on their platform and blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to the Sony problem, which is the new thing, this is a whole new layer. This is like, okay, well, even if you take the time to host your own servers and do this and do that, blah, 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 Sony won't allow you to, they will not publish your game and allow it to run if your servers also communicate with another client on another competing platform.
But I feel like but FF11 did this, and this was so long ago. I feel like that should have set a precedent. It's
because if they get a consumer on their platform that plays the PlayStation version of the game, they want that person to convince their friend to come play with them. They don't want them to be like, oh, well, all my friends have the Xbox One, I have the PS4 one, I guess they'll just sit there on Xbox, I'll sit here and everything's fine. Now that's pro-consumer, that argument. But from Sony's perspective, like, oh, but that doesn't make us money. Now they can't convince their friend to come over to our platform and give us money. So, I mean, that's really, I'm really simplifying it here. There's way more involved, I'm sure. But at a basic level, there's two issues, right? Technical issues, what have you designed it for? Did you design and take the easy way out and hook into this company's server so that you don't have to host it yourself? Or did you design it on your own, but you're just a slave to policy, like is the case with most of the Sony issues? It depends on the company, but it sucks because even if Sony goes back on their policy, it's going to be very difficult for an MMO like Elder Scrolls or even an online RPG like Diablo 3 to kind of go back on their decision afterwards, because they've already have a separate set of data and servers and adjustments that exist on the console that don't exist on the PC. And trying to merge all that data over would probably be a logistical nightmare. So I doubt most companies would do it. So even if tomorrow Sony goes, all right, we're moving our policy, and Microsoft and Sony work to mitigate any technical issues, it's such an investment for companies to do it that most of them won't, or they'll wait till their next title comes out.
Yeah, I really doubt a lot of them would get like retroactively changed. It probably would be newer stuff at this point. But I feel like with such big things like Fortnite and Minecraft, I feel like you're right, it's more pro-consumer than pro-money. But I just feel like how many times I'm like, oh, I really want to buy this game, but I'm not going to because all my friends play on a different system that I don't have. Like, I'm not going to go buy an Xbox to play one game. True. But however, like I do know people that play some games on Xbox. I'm like, oh, if I could play on, PC or, sometimes it's on PC or PlayStation 4, I would love to do that, but then I can't, so I don't buy the game at all.
Right, and that's great for you, and that's great for the game developer, because that means you get a great experience, and the game developer, the company that actually developed it, gets to make money. But that sucks for the OEM. Or not OEM. That's hardware manufacturer, right? So that sucks for Sony or Microsoft or whoever, or Nintendo even. Yeah, that's the problem. The difference is Nintendo and Microsoft seem to be slowly embracing this idea of like, hey, let's stop being so rigid and let's allow this, because in the long run, more people might use our systems if we luck out, right? Because the idea is that if you allow cross-platform, but you push that your system is better overall, then you still win out. You don't care that they are playing with people on other systems. But Sony doesn't feel that way yet, I guess. Maybe they know some statistics we don't,
It's because they're stuffy Japanese people too. And I'm just kidding. No.
I mean, hey, Nintendo's open to it. So
that's true. That's true. But Nintendo, I feel like, has always had a more like, we just want people to play games. Maybe not. I don't know.
No, they've been more rigid.
Nintendo's been xenophobic as hell too.
I mean, that's true. I do know Nintendo, it's really hard to get the rights for music and stuff. I know, like, Marching Band, we really wanted to play Nintendo music, and they would not sell the rights to bands to do it. Or if they would, it was, like, super fucking expensive.
Look at the friend system on the 3DS, and then tell me Nintendo's been open.
Okay, that's true. That's true. I guess I always just look at Nintendo with these goggles of, like, oh, they're the family system. They love everyone. But I guess from the nitty-gritty business side of it, it's not really like that.
Yeah, no, Nintendo is not nearly as friendly with certain modern practices as you would think. They're only just starting to become, and that's with the popularity of the Switch.
In the chat, Mr. Eggdishes is saying that Nintendo hates streamers. Is that like?
It's Mim, isn't it?
Is that true? Is that his? Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. Hi.
That was a thing with Let's Players, is that they're very copyright loving with Let's Players.
Yeah, I guess I can't admit that I watch a lot of Let's Plays, especially Nintendo ones.
The Let's Players are basically free advertisements. I don't know why anyone would hate them.
It's because if your game is story driven, or in a really pessimistic way, what if your game kind of sucks? Then unfortunately, if someone sees it early, then they may not buy it because either a story's been spoiled or they realize the game is bad, and then now they don't buy it. So you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as a positive or a negative. It's all just what your perspective is.
Yeah, that's true. I still probably a lot of the competitive type games embrace streamers a lot more, probably because that gets more people to play. But
to be fair, with most Nintendo games, if I see someone play it, I'm probably going to buy it because Nintendo does make decent games most of the time.
Right, but if your game is just fairly story driven, someone can just watch a Let's Play and then not feel the need to buy the game.
Woman, when did Nintendo make story driven games?
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
That's
Nintendo has been really open with third parties. Look at Octopath Traveler and all the other indie stuff coming out now, right?
Mm-hmm.
The closest thing to story driven Nintendo game is Zelda, and Zelda's a mess.
Right. But we're talking about Nintendo as a publisher right now, not as a developer. So if you talk to them as a publisher, a lot of their developer studios that are publishing with them are making RPGs or story-driven action games, right? So you gotta be careful. Like, look at Atlas. I mean, they're not on Nintendo; they're Sony. I know we're pivoting a bit, but like it makes sense if you make an RPG or something that's story-driven. It makes sense.
Yeah, Atlas was like blocking people from streaming in Persona 5 past a certain point because of spoilers, and they don't want anyone to stream that, and they were like C&Ding you if you were streaming past a certain point in the game. It was really silly. I mean, I do understand it to a point, though, because like they want people to go buy it, but I feel like it was also limiting their content creators who are also sitting there like, I love this fucking game, go buy it. And then like, no, but we won't let you stream it because, I don't know.
Enough streaming.
Yeah, so TLDR, Yoshi P wants cross-platform, multiple development studios want cross-platform, consumers want cross-platform, Sony says fuck you, and even if they did allow it, there's still going to be some technical issues.
We do have an Xbox 14 version right now, don't we?
No. 14 only exists on PlayStation 4 and PC and Mac, and the Mac client shit.
Oh, I thought it was on Xbox.
No, remember I was mentioning the technical problems? Cough, cough. That's what Yoshi was dealing with.
Is the Switch powerful enough to do 14?
That's a whole nother story, but technically, yes, it would just look like shit. Because they'd have to tone down the particle effects and the shadows.
Because looking at like Breath of the Wild, plugging it into the TV, like I don't remember which way it went now, but like one of them, it looked really good, and then like, I can't remember if it was the TV or the handheld version, but then the other one looked crappier.
TV always will look better because when the Switch is plugged in, it devotes 30%. When the Switch is not plugged in, when you're using it as a handheld, the CPU or GPU, one of them downclocks 30%. And usually that's why in handheld mode, the developers choose to run at 720, whereas when plugged in, they'll tend to run their games at 1080. That's the reason. Because their CPU or GPU is 30% slower when in handheld mode. And the reason for that has a lot to do with, one, power consumption, and number two, heat. The hardware in a Switch is essentially an extremely high-end Android tablet, but running a Nintendo operating system, not a crappy Android OS, so it's very efficient. It's just the hardware is roughly equivalent to like a really, really souped-up NVIDIA Shield or tablet, or a very, 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 very high-end like Android tablet. That's basically the hardware in a Switch right now. So it can run a lot of stuff, and it can run it very smooth, but the developers have to work a lot to optimize it. And on top of that, they are going to have to turn down things like shadows, lighting. If you have a lot of people on screen, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. We'd have to see some benchmarks for the Switch to see how it handles when there's a certain amount of models on the screen at once, right? Because that's really the problem with an MMO, that and like networking. Yeah, true.
Like, how could you do like big hunts when they first come out on the Switch? I feel like that would just crash everything.
Yeah, I mean,
that just won't load.
Yeah, but in terms of CPU, GPU, and memory, based on the specs that I've seen, yeah, I think the Switch can do fine as long as they tone the settings down. But that's the problem. If they do that, they chose to do that, they'll run into the same issue they're eventually going to have with the lower end version of the PS4, and the same issue they previously had with the PS3, is that you're limited to an extent by your lowest common denominator when you go cross-platform. So bumping up system requirements is going to be very difficult without killing off a platform eventually, like they had to do with the PS3.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
this is something PC developers don't really have to worry about, right? Because they just they wait a couple of years and then they bump up the minimum requirements a little bit, and they bump up the recommended a lot. And by that time, 99% of their player base has moved on to better hardware, so they don't care.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
All right, before we go into our next news story, we do have a caller for the first time. So I'm going to bring our caller up here. We have, let's see, Shinjima from Genova, who wants to speak about Eureka. Shinjima, are you here? Hello. I don't know if he's muted. I'm not sure how this works. Shinjima? He says he's muted. I don't know. He was working a second ago.
Hey,
there. Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hi. Welcome, Shinjima. You wanted to talk about Eureka. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey, I guess I wanted to talk about it because it's a hot topic right now.
Sure.
Everyone's got an opinion on it, I guess.
So what's yours?
I just wanted to say, basically, there's a few things, but first of all, I guess I personally thought Pagos was a step up from Animos. I know people don't like mob grinding, and I agree that like chain 30 is a bit too high. They should probably lower it, maybe half chain 15 or something.
Well, the first Eureka did chain 32, didn't it?
Yeah, but you know, like I guess people's complaints on the chain is like it's way too exhausting to like be going all the way up to 30 and having to keep pressing abilities and stuff, which I don't have a problem with. Like, I don't really understand this whole carpal tunnel thing. It didn't really bother me, mostly because I don't spam the buttons really hard. But
how can you with a 2.5 second global
I was going to say,
cooldown,
14 is still pretty slow, though, compared to other MMOs that have a much shorter global cooldown. I don't feel like... Are people actually bitching about having to go up to chain 30 because they're getting tired of clicking buttons? That's a thing?
Yeah, that is. It's a thing.
As a WoW player, fuck all of you for complaining about that. You have no right.
Yeah, honestly, because I see people, I think it's because I see people, like, they spam the button constantly to make sure that they hit the GCD, but it doesn't really make any sense. Anyway, that's a side topic, but I don't know. But the main thing I didn't like was the community was sort of like, they're like, you know, we don't like Pagos, so just bring back Animos again and make it an M train. And I understand people want different ways of leveling, and I don't think the mob chain should go away. But here's one fix. One fix that you, Nika, I know you played 11, right? So you'll be familiar with it. You'll be familiar with Fields of Valor, okay? Fields of Valor inside Eureka it'll make mob chain go faster because you'll get that bonus from...
Wait, Fields of Valor was the little books you'd click on and you'd pick objectives, right?
Yeah.
So it's essentially like the challenge log, though. We have a challenge log which has stuff like that, like kill 30 ice elemental stuff. It's kind of like that.
I know, but
right?
I'm saying like that's the weekly thing, but I think there should be like a either make the challenge like a Fields of Valor inside Eureka, because that's what they were saying. They wanted different game systems that weren't in 14, right?
Right.
And yeah, it wasn't 11, but Fields of Valor wasn't in. It hasn't been in 14 yet. So you just like make it it could be a daily Fields of Valor, or it could be like you can only do 5 pages a day or something. But it would fix 3 things, right? So it would make mob chain groups go faster because you get the bonus. It would allow for a viable solo option, and you could have something to do while you're in the NM train if that's how you want to level, right? So, because personally I don't like the NM train, but I just think instead of them, what I didn't like was they are trying to promote the NM train, and you still do have to grind because of lights and stuff. But instead of taking something away, they should add more systems inside Eureka. That's just my thought.
I agree. You're right. I think if Eureka had more daily things you could do, like every time you log into Eureka, there's a different objective you can go do. And some of them maybe could be done solo, some of them need a small group. And I think that way it would get me logging into Eureka every day, even if it didn't give me XP necessarily, if it gave me crystals or gave me lights or gave me something that I could just log in and do. Maybe if I don't have the full so many hours until I get kicked out of Eureka, I just want to go in there real quick before I got to go to work or whatever, and I can go in, do an objective and leave. I feel like that would get a lot more people playing it, and that is a nice alternative to doing the NM train. I do agree with you there.
Yeah, and also Pagos crystals suck. There should be other ways to get Pagos crystals, and the bunny, like, they should maybe get Pagos crystals from the bunny fates. That would be good from the chest.
Yeah,
there.
because nobody does the bunny feat, and the bunny feat's a good idea to have a bunny to get treasure and stuff, but nobody wants to do it because it doesn't give XP and it's really long.
Yeah, it doesn't give anything worthwhile. Like, if it gave some lights or something, and if it gave Pagos crystals, I think a lot more people would do it. And as far as experience points, like I said, I think they should increase one thing is decrease the chain to like 15, but triple the experience points for mobs that you kill and the bonus.
Mhm.
So instead of like making people slog through to chain 30, and another problem with that is, like, if an NM pops, then you have to ruin your chain 30. You got to run to it, right?
Yeah.
So
That's true.
I think what people should be asking for, instead of, that's my main issue, is people should be asking for tweaks and additions instead of just wanting the NM train back again. That's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's about all I have really to say on Eureka. And I hope the next part is better, and I hope they add things instead of
But I
just
feel
making
like
it
we said that about Anima as well. This is a good start. I hope the next one is better. And now this one like literally just came out and we're already saying the same things about the next Eureka.
Seems to be a
Well,
pattern here.
Me personally, like I said, I thought Pagos was fun. Like, I just did it casually 2 to 3 hours a day, and I just hit 35
Oh wow.
yesterday. So
Yeah, I haven't
I say let's dump all of this and have me grind 8 million creation and go through 50 million dungeons again, like the anima.
I mean,
yeah, that's another.
yeah, I want to say Eureka is more fun than the old relics, but
I disagree.
really?
Yeah,
Why?
because I felt like I was doing something.
Like, think about it this way: the old system got you to do content that people at least mildly enjoyed, right? I mean, even if the dungeons are easy, at least the first couple times you do them, people are like, oh, okay, these are fun. You got to think a little bit, right? All right, got a tank, got a healer, DPS, whatever. If that devolved into, which it sounds like it did, because in the first and second Eureka now, if that devolves into just, hey, I'm going to walk up to this giant group of people and just kind of sit on my ass and wait like 20 minutes until something spawns, blow it up, and run to the next one. Yeah, that's not content.
Yeah, that's
I
exactly
agree.
what
For me, the worst part of the NM train is you don't need 100+ people killing trash mobs.
Yeah.
It's really terrible, right? Like, people say, well, hey, don't be an AFKer then in the NM train, but I'm like, well, it doesn't really make sense to have 100 people killing trash mobs now, does it? Like, some of those people might as well just go AFK because they have really nothing to do. And I personally don't like the old relic, like the light step. I remember doing Garuda like 200
Oh yeah,
times.
that was annoying.
Yeah, like,
I'm glad to not be doing that anymore.
yeah, and you know, Pagos for me was basically, it felt like you just go out with a small team of people and you explore the map, and you know, yeah, you're grinding mobs, but you gotta, I don't know, it did really reminisce of Final Fantasy XI experience points parties where you that's what you do, right? And yeah, I think there could be improvements still on Pagos, but I thought it was a step up from Animals, personally.
Yeah, I mean, when you're comparing grinds, I think it's probably, I don't think either option's good, but I think it's probably better to be constantly pulling enemies and hitting buttons and doing content and being quote unquote engaged than it is to just sit there for a while waiting for something to happen, hitting a few buttons, then walking to the next objective and waiting again. You know what I mean? I think it's just,
Yeah, that's true.
you shouldn't have to wait around for content. It just doesn't make sense.
I agree. I agree with what you said, Strife. I agree.
Yeah. Maybe. Okay, then all we can say is I hope the next one will be better at this point. I mean, they did retroactively change XP, so they realized there was a problem, but they didn't really fix the other problem.
Yeah, but the problem is with this change, at the end of the day, all they really did is go, okay, well, people want the reward, so we're going to nerf this to get them to the reward. But that doesn't solve the problem. The problem was the content was shit. So since the content was shit and it had problems, instead of actually trying to improve the content, they decided just to say, well, people don't like the content, fuck it, make it easy so they can get the reward and move on, so they don't hate us.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it feels like.
I really think they should. Oh, sorry. I really think they should stand their ground though with certain things. Like,
Oh, they've always been pushovers.
Well, there was a recent interview where Yoshida said they're not going to get rid of the chain in Eureka, because you still have to chain mobs to get light.
Yeah.
For your frosted flakes or whatever they but yeah, like I don't think the answer is, like Strife said, I don't think the answer is just revert everything to a glorified fate grind, and that's what it is. Like the NMs, honestly, the NMs aren't very interesting. The mechanics on the bosses, they're not that interesting. They're not much different from grinding mobs, in my opinion. They're just bigger mobs that take more people to grind. So, I mean, that's all I really have to say on the topic, but I think they can add, like, Fields of Valor, I think would be good.
That's a good
addition.
idea.
And yeah, it would allow for a solo option, you know, like if someone just wants to go in.
What?
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be better instead of that to just do quests, or like dynamic quests that pop up, similar to Fates, that have tangible rewards?
That would also be cool.
But you could do those too. You could do those too. You don't have to remove anything. You could keep NMs. You could keep mob grind.
I didn't say remove.
Yeah, but Square Enix probably is like, oh well, we don't need that much stuff happening in there. So the next one we'll get rid of, NMs and only put in this. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like their mind is pretty skewed. But thank you very much for the call, Shinjima. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yep, and remember, if you want to call Limit Break Radio, today we're only doing calls on Discord. I don't know how much time we'll have for calls. We're getting close to the end here, but maybe one more person. limitbreakradio.com/Discord. We've got like 2 more news stories and a discussion. I don't know how much we're going to get into in the next 20 or 30 minutes, but I did want to mention that it was finally announced that the FanFest merch pre-sale thing has finally been announced, that it's actually happening, because, for all of us who did go to FanFest last time, that merch line was a shit show. And they got their shit together by the time they got to the European FanFest, where you were allowed to pre-order merchandise and then pick it up at the event. So they have announced now that they said they're currently sending out pre-order codes. I have not received mine yet. If anyone in the chat who's going to FanFest has received your pre-order code, let me know, because like they say they're currently sending out and I haven't gotten mine. I'm just getting a little nervous, that's all. But apparently, what?
By the way, shout out to Dark Flux for the 19-month resub. Really appreciate that, dude. I'm sure Nika and the hosts really.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Thanks. Yeah, that's a big resub. The pre-orders are going to start on August 30th and will end on September 12th. And then whatever is not bought through the pre-sale will be sold at show. I'm hoping, and you can even pick up your shit on Thursday, which is actually the reg day and not even an item day. So like that's going to eliminate the on-site merch line incredibly. So I'm really, really excited that they're actually doing this. I wanted to like bring up the actual merch. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to bring it up on the stream. I'm going to show it real quick. Just scroll through the merch a little bit. The FanFest specific t-shirts are kind of cute this year. Like they have the cute little FanFest festival celebrating t-shirt and this really cool Yugiri and Hien t-shirt. I thought these were really cool. This Yotsuyu t-shirt with the cool smoke that comes out and like makes a little Tsukuyomi bunny ears. And this cool like Shinryu Final Fantasy that looks like something that came out of a totally different game, but it looks really cool.
Sponsored stream.
I mean, it looks like it. Like this Shinryu shirt. It says Final Fantasy and like this epic flame writing, and it's this dragon. Like it doesn't look like a Final Fantasy, but it's really cool. I like it.
All right, I like the Shinryu one.
It's cool, right? And then the Yugiri and Hien one I really like too. I'll probably buy that one. Then we've got like this fat chocobo hoodie. I don't know. I probably won't buy that one. That's kind of silly. I don't know. A cute little tote bag where instead of Namazus, you've got like minions. A fat chocobo hat. Of course, the Eorzea Encyclopedia #2, which we know was sold out. I'm so mad. The last FanFest, I was in line. I was like 10, 20 people from the front, and then the first encyclopedia sold out. So mad. So thankfully, we can pre-order that now. They have these little glow stick things like from the emotes you can do. One side says FanFest, one side says the Primals. I'm so mad because some of us from the Final Fantasy 14 like FanFest cosplay page bought a bunch of these on Amazon, and now there's like official FanFest ones. I'm really bummed because I would have bought that one if I had known, because they're like the exact same price. Whatever. Cute little otter plushie. A Harshifont silver pendant, which is really awesome, but of course it's $270 because it's like legit silver. But for any of you who are going to buy that, awesome. There's a cute little plushie of Alpha from Omega Raid. I already have a Chocobo Dungeon plushie, so I probably won't buy this Alpha plushie, but he's cute.
Remember remember, guys, Square Enix is a small, budding indie company. They can really use your support.
Yeah, by hiking up all... I mean, a lot of this is really expensive. They have Moogle ears and Moogle cap. I might maybe buy one of those, maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of expensive for a hat. I might be able to make a Moogle hat myself, so $32 is a little steep.
If you don't buy this stuff, they might have to go down to one dungeon every
Oh,
patch.
no. Well, some
Remember,
patches
guys,
already are one dungeon.
All proceeds go to the next dungeon.
Yeah. And they have this friggin' hat. It's like a hat. It's a muffler scarf. Like, it goes around your neck. It's really cute. I don't know if there's a different view. Oh, it like goes onto your hands, maybe? Are those little hand things down there? I can't really tell. It's cute. There's carbuncle slippers. Yeah, carbuncle slippers.
Carbuncle slippers?
Yeah, so you
Oh,
know how I
shit.
bought the Moogle ones at the last fan fest? I was wearing
Yeah.
them around. Yeah, so now they've got the carbuncle slippers.
Carbuncles are the superior one.
I know. It's like I really want them, but I'm like, and I do wear my Moogle ones all the time. But like, do I want to spend another $40 on slippers when I already bought Moogle ones last time? I don't know. I might, honestly. I'm not really sure. They have these. I don't even know how to pronounce the carabiner. Are those little clips that like hook on your backpacks and stuff? Is that what these are? I don't know. Carabiner? How do you say that? Carab. I can speak and read things clearly. They have just a couple job classes. I don't know why they don't have all of them. Dragoon, Paladin, Black Mage, and Ninja. But this I'm definitely buying. Ice Tray. FF14 job class Ice Tray. This is legit, and I want this really bad, and I'm totally buying this one. And I'm going to have like all my parties with like job class ice cubes. Super cool, right? Because I host so many parties. Not really, but I love this ice cube tray so much. Really cool mouse patty thing. And I'm a little bit bummed that you get like the entire set of posters here. I already have the, at the first fan fest, I bought the Scions one as a wall scroll. When I was in Japan, I bought the Heavensward one as a wall scroll. So I really want the Stormblood one as a wall scroll, but that doesn't seem to be a purchase option. Maybe it'll be like at Fest or something. I don't know. I'm sad about that. They have the best of Blu-ray song from all the ones that are voted on. It says the cover art is currently not final, so there's no image of that. And then a bunch of towels. These Tengu towels. They have Moogle towel, Carbuncle towel, and Fat Cat towel. All of these things are up for sale for pre-order. And I'm wondering if pre-order also has a set amount. Like if so many people buy the book, if they can sell out in pre-order, or if like everybody who pre-orders one by September, whatever, then they will make that many. I don't know. Because they said whatever doesn't sell out will then be available at the festival, but they haven't really said what that's going to be. So I don't know. But I'm excited for that. And yeah. All right. So now getting into one of our discussions, the last announcement that we have to make within the 14 news, this is the very last thing. We've been in news the entire show, but this does move into a discussion. The Rising Anniversary event has come back to 14. It starts today, actually. It should be going already, although earlier it was apparently not active when it was supposed to be. And it's supposed to last until September 17th. Oh, today being August 26th. So if you listen to this on the podcast, it should have already been going for a couple days. It's going to go till September 17th, starts in Ul'dah, and you can get the Revolutions Orchestrion roll, wind up Sirena, and then here is where the salt starts flying. The other two rewards are the Manderville earrings and White Raven's earrings, which up until now were 1.0 exclusive. The other day, Fusion X at Gamerscape posted an article on Gamerscape, and put it on Facebook, of course, also, that talking about how he's worried that if they're putting 1.0 stuff into the game now, what does that mean for other 1.0 exclusive items, such as the tattoo, or the Legacy Chocobo, or Legacy Gubu. We did already get a Gubu mount in this game, and they're barely any different, so that's kind of a thing. But what does this mean for the future of this game? I want to get your guys' opinions on this a little bit. Like, do you think that it's okay that they're putting 1.0 exclusive stuff? Is this kind of devaluing the effort and of those of us who play since 1.0 and are legacy players? Or is this, I mean, they're just earrings in the end, so they're not that big of a deal, but...
I think at the very least this should have been recolors, but in general, as long as a certain amount of time passes, I don't think it's necessarily all doom and gloom. If they re-release old content, I think that's kind of nice for the players who weren't around back then, not due to no fault of their own, like they didn't know that the game existed or whatever. But on the other side, they should have something that shows that you were there. I've always been a big fan of things like titles being the things that you retain. I'm not sure how I feel about random pieces of gear being exclusive. I think that if it's gear, it's okay, but maybe they should have done a recolor instead. I don't know. I don't think it's as big of a deal as other people think, probably.
I mean,
I don't think it's a big deal at all. I mean, like, if I spent all those hours farming the ponies when they were irrelevant, should I be mad that now anyone can solo the EX Prowess? I mean,
No.
I would, but
I
I didn't
I mean,
actually
that's
do
one
that.
way of looking at it.
I mean, the content in MMOs, generally things are relevant for the duration of an expansion, and then they're not.
Yeah, I actually think it's less fair that this gear is unavailable to players who just didn't happen to play at that time.
Yeah, like nothing's worse than joining an MMO 1 or 2 expansions or more in, and then realizing that there's stuff from back in the day that you'll never be able to achieve. And again, I think it's one thing if it's a title, but so many people are into collecting either mounts, pets, or certain pieces of gear to glamour or transmog or whatever, that I think it's important to let at least general collectibles still be earned for the most part. That being said, there is something to be said about exclusive mounts and titles and things like that. I don't know. I'm honestly conflicted on this issue. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, there was someone in one of the Facebook threads that had suggested maybe it has like another word after it. So like when you check someone, like there's always something to be said about gear lust or like wanting something someone else has and not being able to obtain it. It's kind of cool for those people. So like if you click on someone, it should say something like, you know, replica, or like, you know, its name is slightly different.
It's kind of like when you get an achievement and there's a date on when you earn the achievement.
Yeah.
That separates you from the people who just kind of went back and got it later when it wasn't relevant.
Yeah.
I think that's something like that is needed here.
I mean, I will say though too, I played 1.0, but I don't think I ever got either of these things. I think I never finished the Hildebrand quest in 1.0, and then the White Raven's earrings were from beating like a harder version of Nail, I think.
I saw someone when I was playing a Realm Reborn who had the earrings, and he said that it was from the hard mode Naw fight. And
I don't know if I realized there was a hard mode, because at that point, like, a lot of my friends weren't playing anymore, and I ended up like even getting the story mode version of the Nail fight. I was only able to beat that during an Extra Life stream, and I remember like spending multiple hours in Old Dodge just like shouting for help on it, because there wasn't, you know, duty finder, party finder shit, and it took a really long time because that fight was actually really hard. So like once I actually got a group, like whether or not we killed it was another story. And I mean the prize for that was the Dalamud horn, which is a really cool exclusive item. And you know, the whole thing back then was Dalamud was the thing that came down in Bahamut and everything came out, and I just feel like I actually would be really salty if they put the Dalamud horde in to this game, just because I'm very proud of like how long it took me to actually kill that, and it was a unique reward for beating the story in 1.0. And there is no way to beat the story in 1.0 anymore, and I would be kind of sad if now everybody has that, because like I it's glowy and it's cool, and so people are like, oh, where'd you get that? And I was like, oh, I got it in the 1.0 story. I would be really sad now if everybody could get that.
I think the best thing they can honestly do is, because I just realized they actually don't even do it now, is they need to attach like dates and timestamps to achievements and tie these kind of exclusive or timed rewards to achievements.
Yeah, that would be a big help, actually, thinking about it. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, well, I hate to compare it, but like over in WoW, we have a thing called feats of strength and legacy achievements. So whenever things are removed, that you can still link and show people like, hey, look what I got back on X date. So they need something like that.
And like, I know a lot of people.
All your weapon skills up to 400, because that doesn't exist in WoW.
Oh my god.
A lot of people, though, are saying, like, oh, well, legacy people should just be happy that they pay $3 less every month. And, like, okay, true, but that doesn't show anybody. Like, nobody else can tell that I pay that. Like, it's not a thing that I can show off.
Right, you need some sort of prestige, unless you're going to carry around your monthly receipt.
Right, so we have, like, the legacy tattoo, and I think that would be the worst one. Like, give all my items away, but don't give everyone the legacy tattoo. Just because, like, and that's even still, it's hidden in most of the gear that I'm wearing, right? It's not like it's always there, but I still feel like that's something that really, like, because if your character was created, like, that's almost like a brand. Like, you were created during 1.0 and they stamp you with an iron brand, and I feel like that being put out to everyone, and like, there's a lot of people that are worried they're just going to stick the legacy tattoo in a Rising event or in the cash shop, and then everyone's going to get it. And I want to say, yes, I'm just happy with my sub being cheaper, but that tattoo is like special. It's like part of my identity as a 1.0 created character.
I do feel like legacy rewards for being a legacy player, that should stay exclusive, just because you put up with their shit during that time. So, but like things that you did a fight that doesn't exist anymore, I feel like, well, if they put the fight back in the way it was, then everyone's going to solo and get the item. So why not just get the item anyway?
I guess. I don't know. We might be able to take another caller if somebody would like to weigh in on this as well. We can move on to our next little discussion point for the last, 10, 15 minutes of the show. But if anyone has another opinion of this, we would love to discuss whether or not you agree that, 1.0 items should stay in 1.0, or if you think that they should be available for everyone. Call and let us know. Just limitbreakradio.com/Discord. Speaking of World of Warcraft, we do have, I'm a little bit curious. Right now, 14 is at what? So 1.0 is its own monster, but we got A Realm Reborn, we got Heavensward, we got Stormblood. So it's looking at its third expansion now, and it has not changed from its cookie cutter format at all. It's, the same 24-man raids, the same circle boss room raids, the same everything. And but now we get less dungeons per thing. It's getting smaller almost, but it's the same formula, and we hate it, and everybody hates it. People are bashing it all over the place. But yet, from what I hear, World of Warcraft, was known for shaking it up, for changing, for putting a new spin on it every expansion. But from what I'm hearing, and Strife, you'll have to kind of back me up on this one, it seems like the newest WoW expansion isn't really that much different from the last one, and it's still fairly formulaic. So, but they're still getting praise for their version of the expansion, for their following the formula that's working. And so we have Yoshi P who's saying our formula is working, we're not going to change it, and gets bashed on, whereas World of Warcraft's like, this is a great formula, let's continue it. So looking at the next expansion, I'm sure we'll get a new expansion announcement at FanFest this year. What do we do going forward so that Final Fantasy XIV can also be praised like WoW is for following their formula?
Right. So I would say yes, more so than in previous expansions. There are less changes in Battle for Azeroth from Legion compared to previous ones, but there's still some noteworthy stuff. And I think the reason that they're getting praise is because they did something in Legion. In Legion, it was almost like they cracked the code, for endgame content specifically.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was, for many years, just to kind of summarize, Vanilla WoW BC was Blizzard trying to find themselves and figure out what an MMO was supposed to be, because they were originally just trying to base things off of EverQuest and the other MMOs out at the time, right? And they were kind of playing catch up with the fact that they were so popular. And then in Wrath, they finally were like, okay, let's finish telling some of the stories we had in our previous games, because they were an existing franchise, and let's kind of build on that and start fleshing out storytelling a little. Cataclysm, they decided, okay, everything's out of date. We were playing catch up for so many years. Let's just redo the world and destroy it and tell this big epic story that had both successes and failures. And they ended up doing similar to what A Realm Reborn was, where they kind of destroyed their entire vanilla content, and redid it as years later, new designs, new quests, everything. So that was interesting. And every time they did these expansions, they changed their engine. It's not the same engine. That's a misconception. Everyone's like, oh, it's a 2004 video game. Yeah, no, there's nothing under the hood, probably reminiscent of those days. Every 2 years, they've made drastic changes to the engine the game runs on. And then, Mists of Pandaria was controversial, but that was when the modern WoW, I feel like, started, was either Cataclysm or Pandaria. And what they did there was they came in and they basically went, okay, look, the game runs on a somewhat modern engine now. The art styles are new. We have really good artists. Let's do some storytelling. So they started creating new technologies to do new things and new techniques, and they just kind of expanded it from there. And at this time, they had a split in their community. Casual dungeon runners who just wanted to kind of zerg a dungeon, AoE everything down, and then the more hardcore people who wanted dungeons to feel more like raids. And they still had casual players who were getting fatigued from doing daily quests, and that was their only endgame content, right? So you have all these different groups vying for what they think they should be doing at level cap, right? Mm. Should we be blowing through a dungeon? Should we be doing something that's difficult? Should we be just sitting here and doing 25 dailies every fucking day and logging back on the next day, feeling like if I don't log in, I won't be able to catch up? And following that expansion, they had their worst expansion ever. They had Warlords of Draenor, where they decided, we're going to do incredible storytelling, and then we're not going to release any content. And that was due to, I think, under the hood, their team expanded and changed, and a ton of internal conflict happened around that time. And there's interviews, you can go read about that. But the point is, they came out of that expansion knowing, okay, we know what to do, we know what not to do, and we found the formula. People need content during an expansion, not just at the beginning, but there has to be enough at the beginning for them to sink their teeth in. We know who our different types of players are overall in the player base. We think we have this. And when they came out with Legion in 2016, they found this formula. They said, okay, here's what we'll do. You know how we have fates in 14, and the fates. What are the rewards? What are the rewards, Nika?
XP.
No, max level.
Tomes and grit seals and I don't know.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, nothing of worth, right?
I only ever do fates when I'm leveling, because what's the point afterwards?
Ah, see? So what they decided to do is they decided, okay, instead of doing a daily quest every day, they released a system called World Quest, where they said, okay, this is going to be, it's kind of like Fates. All these quests will appear all over the zones periodically when you're max level. They'll last for a couple hours, and every 3 or 4 hours, we'll do like a refresh on the server and see if new quests need to appear. And the idea is that some of them will last days, some of them will last hours. It varies. Some of them will reward you with some sort of resource. Others gold, which is their currency. Others is going to be reputation, because you can grind out reputation with factions to earn end game content. And others will actually just drop gear, in case you need gear up to a certain point. So they developed that system for Legion, and it just took off. And what they did is they had emissary quests show up each day that just said, go to this zone and do 4 world quests for this faction and get a bonus reward. But that'll sit there for 3 days, so that you can leave the game for up to 3 days without feeling like you've gotten behind on anything, and kind of queue it up. So this way you don't have any daily quest fatigue, and these quests are always changing. They're not the same things every day.
But
you don't have to
it does, but eventually the same quest cycle back around, right? Or
yeah, but it's not every single day doing the same things.
Okay.
It's next week you see the same quest you were doing like 6 days ago, sure, but like it's not on a fixed schedule either. It's very dynamic, and every week there's also a world boss that spawns that you can do as a weekly, right? So there's the different things they tried out.
Oh, variety.
Variety, exact, and lots of it. There's literally, I think, the expansion had something like maybe like a couple thousand quests, compared to like Heaven's Ward's 800, like what was it, 830 or something they said in that interview.
Yeah, something like
that. So BFA and Legion have both had a couple thousand each, and then on top of that, you make a new character, right? You don't switch jobs, so that means they're all available to you whenever you're leveling up on all your characters. You're not losing out when you switch to your next character. And then if on top of that, the world quest system has a few hundred, if not 8,000 quests, right? So when you add all that content together, you're like, wow, for a casual player, if I just wanted to quest forever, I could.
Right.
Now, on the other side, dungeons. All right, so they were trying to figure out, do we just zerg them down like they did back in Wrath of the Lich King? Do people want really hard dungeons like they had in the early days of WoW or in Cataclysm? And they decided people want a lot of things. So they give you these very easy dungeons to do while you're leveling up and when you first hit level cap, called normal mode. And the idea is you do those to complete a story, right? So you get to the end of a quest line, and they streamline their questing too. So you go through the story, you get to the end of a quest line, and at the end there's this quest, and it says, hey, we have to take this guy down, go to the dungeon. And you're like, all right, cool, this is the big payoff. So you go you queue up for the dungeon, you go through it, it's not too hard, boom, you're done. And then once you've completed that, you get huge XP, blah, 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 blah. Eventually you get good enough gear, you do heroic dungeons. These are your average dungeons that you do at endgame, like kind of what we do in the roulette for tomes, right? And then you're like, okay, cool, these are kind of anywhere from easy to moderately difficult, whatever. And then finally, they have mythic dungeons for the people who want to be hardcore. These require either crowd control or very high-end gear. And then they have that keystone system where you do a mythic dungeon, you get a keystone that says level 2, and all of a sudden you're doing speed runs where the dungeons have Diablo-style random effects, and the health and damage of all the enemies, trash and bosses included, have been buffed up to crazy levels. And remember, the dungeons aren't all a linear path. A lot of them are, but not all of them. So there's different routes you can take to get through the trash mobs,
nice.
because you have to kill a certain amount of trash too. You can't sneak around all of it to kill the bosses. It requires you to make sure you go out and pick up X percentage of trash. So people have to theory crap, what's the best trash packs to kill to kill the least amount of trash and still kill the bosses in the quickest amount of time. So it engages you in all this gameplay, and they've turned that whole system into an esport now twice. They've had 2 world championships, at least one, if not 2 college leagues.
Dungeons?
Yeah, Mythic Plus dungeons, because the idea is you defeat the dungeon. Based on how fast you cleared it, you get more rewards. Then, every time you clear it, based on how fast you clear it, your keystone picks a different dungeon and gets upgraded in level. Every level is more health and damage.
That sounds amazing.
And at levels 2, 4, 7, and 10, there's a special affix. And now, because they're so story-driven, the new system, which unlocks next week, September 4th, basically, at level 10, there will be a special affix that will last the whole season. And it's based on what's going on in the raid. So the current raid tier that's out is about this old blood god. It's like this parasite thing, right? So basically, Gahoon is his name. So the curse of Gahoon, or the infestation of Gahoon, I forget the exact name of it, is the affix at level 10. And basically, once you hit Mythic Plus level 10 or higher, besides all your other affixes, you will always have, every week, it will not change, this special affix until the season's over. And it's this little mini version of Gahoon will infest different trash packs. And when you start fighting them, 2 little parasites will fly out. And if you don't kill them, they'll go pull another trash pack and give them a buff. So, like, basically spreading the aggro everywhere. So, again, it's a lot of, like, cool, innovative things they're doing. So now, think about this. I haven't even talked about raids yet. So this is just
that's true.
World Quest. This is just, this is just World Quest. So, and I haven't even talked about their
And this is
normal
all stuff
quest
you'd want to do at max level, right?
Yes. None of this is while leveling. While leveling, you have an amazing amount of quest hubs to do side quests. They all tell these little stories, and there's a certain amount of stories you have to get through. This expansion, they actually locked 2 mythic only dungeons, like dungeons that don't have a normal or heroic mode, behind you finishing the storylines for certain things. So that was really cool. It's like a big payoff. And then so you have to kind of go through like certain storylines to do that, which I thought was pretty cool.
FF11 used to do some stuff like that. 14 seems to be scared to do that for some reason.
Right. Blizzard only did it because I think eventually, like 6 months from now, they'll probably remove that requirement. They never keep things that way.
Right.
Because they eventually, that's the thing. Blizzard
but once it's not relevant anymore, it doesn't really matter.
Well, it'll always be relevant for the whole expansion because of the Mythic Plus system.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so dungeons will never not be relevant. So with the 2 mythic dungeons and the other ones, we have 10 dungeons in our queue. So when we queue up for a random dungeon, it's a choice of 10 different dungeons.
Not just 2. Oh, God.
Exactly. So think about that. We have 10 different environments that we could go through. And then if we do Mythic Plus, that keystone, when we clear a dungeon, could change to one of any 10. And every week. Exactly. And every week, the affixes that happen at level 2, 4, and 7 change.
Right.
So you don't know what those crazy little effects are going to be. Like the 10th one will be the same for a few months until the next raid tier comes out. Then they'll change that for the season. So again, this is just dungeons.
That feels active. Like they change for the season, they change for whatever. Like that feels like the devs are paying attention.
Yeah. And everyone always like tries to figure out the formula so that like Mondays and Tuesdays they're looking at it like, oh, what affixes is it this week? Is this a good week? Is this gonna be a shit week? Like it's always terrifying. Like one of the affixes is skittish. Tanks deal 70% less threat. That's a terrifying week for a lot of people.
But it could also be a fun challenge. Like that. See,
yeah, for me it's fun. I'm a DPS. For me it's fun.
Yeah, I feel like 14 looks at this and they think they're doing things, like random stuff on each floor. Oh, let's look at a deep dungeon where they have like, oh, on this floor you can't use this.
That deep dungeon concept. Yeah, about that.
So like the thing is that the concept was okay. Like we had Nizal Isle and shit in 11. I just feel like they didn't build on it properly because then they released Heaven on High, and instead of like honestly all I needed from Heaven on High was different objectives on each floor, and instead they didn't change any of that. They just changed a few palm enders and said they made one different room layout and said, yay, it's different.
Let me show you the difference in how Blizzard expanded on a system very similar to what you just said. In Mists of Pandaria, they released technology called scenarios where they decided for casual players instead of dungeons, maybe we can do 3-man little missions that were very story driven and fairly easy. You didn't need to follow the Trinity, like the tank healer DPS. You could just 3 of whoever would just go in and kind of blow through it, right? And they took that tech, they learned the lessons from it, what people liked, what people didn't, blah, blah, blah. Now in Battle for Azeroth, there's a type of content, and this is what Blizzard does sometimes. It's content that will only exist and will only be relevant for Battle for Azeroth. They'll move on to something else the next expansion. But there's a system called Island Expeditions. Every week, they pick 3 different island archetypes. And when you queue up for an expedition with anywhere from 1 to 3 people, usually it'll find people, so it's a full 3-man party. You go to an island, it randomly generates the enemies on the island, their positions, and where this resource is called Azerite. And then it randomly picks 3 NPCs from the other faction to pilot a boat, and they're going to land at the same time you do. And it is a race to clear the enemies on the island and collect the Azerite before the opposite faction. And there is a normal, heroic, and mythic mode of that.
That seems like what Eureka should be.
Exactly. And there's also a PvP mode of that, so that the other faction can actually be other players that you're racing to collect all the Azerite from.
That's cool.
Yes.
That's a neat idea.
Oh, and guess what? They buffed up their AI just for this tool set using some of the guys from the Overwatch team came over to help them. And they basically created a relatively intelligent AI compared to what they've had in the past. And this AI was able to notice when you do certain things. So if you engage a boss enemy on the island, if the other team has an NPC rogue on it named Sneaky Pete, he will literally shadow step to the healer specifically after you've engaged a boss and shut him down and stun the healer and scream Sneaky Pete. It's the funniest shit. So like and this is the casual content, by the way.
Seriously?
This is the reason you're doing expeditions is because you have a neck piece in Battle for Azeroth, and very similar to the weapons that we had in Legion, it is a secondary progression path outside of gear, where the idea is you want to collect artifact power to buff your necklace. Buffing your necklace increases the stats on the necklace slightly, which is whatever. That can go up forever, but it'll take a long time. And also, the gear you get on your helm, shoulders, and chest in this expansion doesn't have secondary stats, and instead has traits that you get to select, but only if your necklace is powerful enough to select the traits. And there's traits for every spec and generic ones that you get to pick from.
Other content that buffs up your gear for other content and not just within itself.
Right. So if you get all the gear you can that week, you're kind of burnt out on trying to get gear, you run expeditions to get artifact power to buff up your necklace. And you can do expeditions with anyone. You don't need a tank, healer, DPS. You just grab 2 friends and go, yo, let's do this shit. And you just go. And if you're a PvPer and you don't like PvE content, you don't like running dungeons, and doing battlegrounds and arenas and all the cool PvP content that's in the game isn't really enough for you to get enough artifact power for your necklace, and you feel like you're getting gimped by only doing PvP, you jump into an expedition, select PvP mode, and oh my god, you just took your 3v3 arena team, equivalent to the Feast, right? You just took your 3v3 arena team, and you just jumped into an expedition. Now shit's getting really weird, because now you're doing like hybrid content.
So where is 14 like not understanding the formula that works? Like, we know you saw with your own eyes Yoshi P at BlizzCon. Like,
yep.
What?
You don't care.
So he's there. He knows. He's listening. He was at the dev panel. Like he was there, and I just feel like, where is the disconnect? Like, okay, we have normal story mode and hard mode within the raids, but it is not the same thing. Like,
no, it's not. Like, for example, the normal mode that Square Enix has developed is equivalent to something we have called LFR, or looking for raid. It's actually something that Blizzard purposely doesn't release till after the normal raids have released. So like what Blizzard does is they'll release like a normal and heroic version of a raid, and then the next week they'll release the mythic version, which is the hardest for the 1% kind of players. And they also start slowly, week by week, releasing parts of LFR, or looking for raid. That looking for raid mode is purposely just made for people who barely play. Maybe they just log in quick on the weekend and they just want to do the raid, kind of to see the story content that's in the raid, and they really don't give a shit about doing the content itself, and they just kind of blow through it and get some crappy rewards and do whatever. So those mythic dungeons, without doing any keystones, the gear they give, and the best gear you can get from world quests, is also the same gear that comes from LFR. So if you want any gear above that level, you actually have to do Mythic Plus or raiding or high-end PvP. So they put like a wall there almost, where it's like, hey, yeah, you can keep playing and you'll get really good gear up to this point, and then after that, it's pretty much motivated by, do you actually want to do gear and do like this end game content or not? And with Square, they just kind of said, yeah, we're going to do LFR, but instead of for an 8-boss raid, it's going to be 4 bosses, and
one at a time,
it's going to take
separately.
you one at a time in a room. Whereas meanwhile, as soon as this raid opens, we're going to have this huge environment to go through with all these different trash mobs and storytelling, and this explorer, Bronzebeard, who's like an older character from WoW, is going to lead us through the raid and be like, oh my god, I found the ruins and blah, blah, blah. And he's going to go through there, and it's just going to be a great experience. And if you're doing normal mode or heroic mode, it's going to be like challenging. If you're doing LFR, it's going to be hilarious. But you won't get to do LFR until the raid's been out for a few weeks and other people have gotten to experience it, because Blizzard recognizes, like, hey, maybe you don't really deserve to see the content the first week or two it's out, because you're kind of just blowing through it. Unlike here, where we release like the shit story mode immediately, everyone just blows through it in 1 week, and then most people never pick it up again.
Yeah.
And savage mode is not even that savage sometimes, so it feels conflicting. Like, I'll be honest, only the 3rd and 4th boss of a FF14 raid feels any kind of challenge.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I told my guild in WoW, I was like, I told them how some of the raids worked in 14 when I was raiding with you, and they're like, really? Is it really like that? I was like, yeah. And then I linked them an article. You know how they on Reddit they post sometimes the guides where it says, oh, at this exact time this move will happen?
Yep.
Yeah, everyone laughed hysterically. They've never seen that, because that's impossible to do for
So
WoW.
are all of WoWs like extremely RNG?
They're not extremely RNG. They vary. Some of them are almost like that, to that scripted level, but most of them have enough RNG where an add-on called Deadly Boss Mods or a similar one could probably predict that, hey, in the next 2 minutes, one of these mechanics is going to happen, but it can't predict at this
Which
moment
one?
in time ahead of the fight. And sometimes it can't predict which one. Sometimes it can. It really depends on the fight. But that's my point. Like, I feel like there's a reason that Blizzard listens and experiments every expansion and tries to get to a point where there's always going to be content. Oh, by the way, there's even more content coming in the couple weeks that they've locked down called War Fronts, where your faction gets to lock down a base and hire troops like a real-time strategy game to attack or defend it. And as long as your side controls it, you get special rewards and bosses while the other side has to gather resources and attack you again. So again,
like new content. This isn't building on an old system. This isn't just like a new map for something they already
They've never done this.
Brand new.
The map is technically existed in the game. It's this place in Arathi Basin, but it's got new stuff in it. Like it's technically an outdoor zone that's just going to weekly, every couple hours, it's just going to activate like this contest for you to kind of attack the other faction's base. It's never been done before. They did it just for this expansion. And it's probably not going to be done after this expansion. They'll probably move on to something else. Warfronts and island expeditions are really just for Battle for Azeroth. Because Blizzard recognizes, just like the artifact system for Legion, it's okay to have content that's just gets, it stays there. It's not going to go away, but it's not really needed after that expansion. They don't have to sit there and maintain it. They'll just kind of let it die.
Right.
And that's okay. That's okay.
It is okay if there's other things to do.
Right, but the problem is Square isn't doing that. Square's taking, hey, here's the same fucking content everyone's always bored with. Let's do the exact same thing every time. And let's not enhance it with anything. Their idea of an enhancement was Diadem and Eureka, and look how well that's
Diadem was shit.
Even Palace of the Dead is the best thing they've done, and even that is kind of like,
Yeah, and I think Palace of the Dead, again, we all thought was a good base, just like we thought Animos was a good base, and that the next step would improve on it. But really, all they did was change a couple minuscule things about it and didn't change the base of it at all. Like, I'm really disappointed how similar Heaven on High is to the original. Like, it's literally like change a couple palm enders, change one room layout, and done. Like, how hard would it have been to make, like, each floor a randomized different objective to open the portal to the next floor? Like, how hard would that have been? Like, that was...
I mean, look, they don't even put effort into the raids. Like, look, what's the hardest part about Kefka right now for you on Savage?
It's just our tanks and healers getting into a certain position for the Forsaken that we're currently stuck on. So our DPS have figured their rhythm out, and now our healers they need to just aim the things a certain way so they don't cleave the arena.
And that's it. It's just avoiding cleaves and positioning, right?
Yeah, that's our biggest thing right now. And we're almost there. Like the last time we did it, we actually got past by a couple seconds more than we did the time before. So
right. So here was our biggest thing, just for comparison. I think this is important. Here's our biggest thing. The last raid tier we did at the end of Legion with Zyle, and Zyle can attest to this, was this fight called Coven. Right. So there were these 3 demon sisters. 2 of them would be active at any time. Our tanks had to keep them 30 yards apart. While they kept them 30 yards apart, periodically the room would be filled with darkness. When it was filled with darkness, you took like 20% or more of your health every tick, so you had to get out of it immediately. The safe spots would randomly spawn around the room. Roughly, they would try to spawn based on where people were standing, but usually it wasn't the case, so it was extremely random. So you had to get to them immediately. While this is happening, still got to keep the bosses 30 yards apart, or they get 99% damage reduction. While this is happening, each boss has a different mechanic. Periodically, one of the sisters will swap with the other sister that you're not currently fighting, who's on the balcony. So the 3 sisters are rotating constantly. Right. One of the mechanics is a tornado that knocks people away. One of them is these 3 darts that deal heavy damage and do a knockback, blah, 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 right? They're all doing different things. While this is happening, every minute and a half, something like that, one of these mechanics would happen. Either a bunch of guys would come around in a circle and throw flamethrowers into the center, and you had to burn them all down while not being in the center, or you'd get a one-shot. Or 4 guys would appear at each corner of the room and start casting. If the cast got off, it would deal huge AoE damage to the entire room and do a stack. The stack increased the damage from that move. So you had to burn 2 of them before any cast got off, or you'd probably die. And then you had to kill the other 2 with hopefully 1 or 0 casts, so you would all live and the healers wouldn't do anything. These would happen while the room filled with darkness, and the safe spots would appear randomly. Another one was electricity would come out. Everyone had to be 2 yards apart, or it would one-shot you with a lightning bolt. You see what I'm saying? Another one was ghosts would all walk towards the center of the room when you gathered in the center, and you had to use crowd control to knock back or grip or root people so that you could then walk around the ghosts, wait about 30 seconds till the ghosts were attackable, and then kill them, while there were only certain zones you could stand in because of the other mechanic. So that's the kind of stuff we struggled on. Meanwhile, most people in this game are struggling to, I have to face the boss a certain way, and I have to stand in a certain place. I stand in every time, every fight, every week.
Yep.
So that's the difference, and that's just raid content. So I think the best thing Square can learn from this is, hey, look, Fates clearly don't do anything at endgame. You clearly don't have enough side quests to satisfy certain casual players. So, and your raid lockouts and your dungeon lockouts and everything actually don't have dungeon lockouts. So your raid lockouts are per character instead of per job. Like, there's so many things they can fix. If they make loot lockout per job instead of character, that's huge, because
and that shuffles people around, and you can run with different groups. You can help other players because you're going to be running on a different job. Dude, I would play on both Paladin and Samurai if I could.
Right, and I would play Dark Knight and Red Mage. And in WoW right now, I just geared out my Warrior. I'm going to get on my Druid now and level as a healer so that I can go run dungeons with my friends, like, after we've geared our main characters. Like, everyone's doing that now. Like, it's a normal thing in other games, not just WoW, actually, a lot of other games, to just level alts for your raiding guild so that you can have a variety of characters and you can have like alt runs of raids every week. Like, one night you might do your main group, and then on a weekend you guys might all get your alts and go into the raid again. You can't do that in 14 unless you have an actual fucking alt, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, 14 suffers a lot from questionable design choice and a lack of content.
Yeah, and I know I've ranted about it before, just having variety, and it sounds like WoW has a lot of things to do at 74, or whatever the max level is, 80, 100, whatever it is in WoW. In 14, it's 120 now. In 14, I just feel like you get to 70 and you have one option for raid. It's like you have a boss in a circle room, and if you want to do it, great. If you don't want to do it, you don't have any other options. And I feel like that, I mean, you can tome grind in the dungeons, but that's not anything.
There's no dungeon content for you, for hardcore people. There's no dungeon content. There's no.
It makes dungeons very boring. I'm almost at a point where I'm like, just get rid of dungeons because they're so boring. Like, I wish they change them.
Even PvPers, you have Frontlines and Feast. If you consider Feast the hardcore content, you don't have anything hardcore for people who enjoy objectives. So, like in WoW, we have Battlegrounds and we have rated Battlegrounds. You just have Frontlines here, and it's not even that popular. And then, you know what I mean? There needs to be a average path and a end game path, because even if the casual player doesn't play the hardcore one, they might enjoy watching and hearing from people that do, and one day they may want to jump into that content because of that. True. There's no option for that right now.
And then, I'm just worried about going into this fan fest. Like, last fan fest, we were all hyped because they're like, we're going to change the battle system. And they're like, oh, let's just nix a few moves that aren't used and add cross-class abilities, which, by the way, are practically going away because next patch, they're going to let you basically equip all of the cross-class abilities. So at that point, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, meanwhile, other games are cutting down on the number of abilities to make sure the classes feel unique. Also, by the way, how many jobs are in the game? 13? Or am I that wrong?
Oh, gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
13
is it 13, 15, something like that?
Something like that, 15
Three tanks, 3 heals, 4 melee, 2 range, and 3 magic.
So like 15? I think it's like 15.
Yeah, maybe 15.
All right. WoW's got 36 playstyles, 36 specializations across the classes. So that's the other thing. You don't have in 14 comparatively, you don't necessarily have a playstyle that will satisfy everyone.
And that's the thing too, is we're trying to think, like, if they were going to add new jobs next expansion, like, we're all struggling kind of think what other things can they add without it just being stupid.
Right. They're worried about adding tanks and healers because they haven't been able to figure out how to innovate it. Meanwhile, we have, I think, 4 or 5 different specializations for tanks, and we have at least 5 specializations for healers over in the other game. I'm like, how can you not think of more than 3? Like, we have a healer that's heal over time based. We have one that does more healing based on how low you are and is really good at, like, burst. We have another one that's just your generic burst healer, kind of like White Mage. And then we have another one that is all about absorbs and dealing damage to heal the raid. And then we have another one that's about trickle healing and, like, just doing low healing over time. And then we have another one that's about healing tanks with big steady heals while sitting in with the melee and healing them as a group. So, like, we have these different styles. I don't know why we're relegated to just White Mage, Scholar, and Astrologian. And Astrologian even is just kind of, do you want to switch to being more like a White Mage or more like a Scholar? Yeah. So, like, it's come on, they can innovate. There's definitely some stuff they can do. They just need to be willing to adjust the battle system a little bit.
But will they? Because this is what they thought was adjusting the battle system. but nothing really changed. Like I'm just worried that they are very disconnected from what change actually means. Like new thing, but it's not any different.
Right.
New thing.
I mean, yeah. Even if they add a new job, that's cool. That's one new play style you've added with a cool aesthetic. That helps, but it's only one play style you've added to do the current content that's already in the game.
Yeah.
And you've added a handful of quests for a short story with them. That's cool, but it doesn't really last. And they still need to actually change up the way they do endgame. Right now in FF14, like every expansion, I've done every quest in the expansion and then geared up and then just been like, which took like 2-3 weeks, and then just been like, and I'm done. There's nothing else to do except for do Savage every week or try my hand at the feast. That's it. There's no other progression path for my character. There's nothing else to do. And if I level another job, it almost feels pointless because I can only do one raid on this character per week. And that's my only endgame content.
I mean, I never thought about that, but locking it per job instead of per character, I think would do wonders for people wanting to play this game and wanting to get more time out of this game. I mean, I feel like that would be easier to do too. Like, not even talking about trying to come up with a variety of content. If they could just change that so that you could continue playing after you've done it for the week, that would be awesome.
Yeah, Shinjima, I do go play WoW. You don't have to tell me to go play WoW. I already am. I'm not sitting here trying to necessarily shit on 14, although I definitely realize that's what I'm doing. I'm just
that's what our show's all there for, Limit Break Radio, shit on 14. Like that's our name. So
right, but I'm more here just to provide a comparison so that if you guys go to FanFest, be on the lookout for things that are real change, not other change. Hey, Shinjima, I'm not saying Endgame at WoW didn't have similar problems or was boring, especially in previous expansions. I mean, it depends, man. I don't know how long you've been gone, but things change every 2 years.
Yeah, this whole discussion point was talking about how WoW has had 2 expansions now with this formula that seems to be working, whereas 14 thinks their formula is working and is repeating the same formula, but isn't actually working. So that's what we're discussing here.
But notice even though that WoW is doing the formula, they're still adding temporary content that's just for the expansion, such as what is it? Like the world quest stuff is one thing. Oh no, island expeditions and war fronts, right? Those are things that only exist in Battle for Azeroth. They're only doing it for this expansion. It's something new. It's something different. So they're not. Those are not carryovers from Legion. They did not just copy that content over.
Right. So they still. So even though a lot of it was formulaic, there is also enough variety that isn't.
Right, exactly. And that's on top of the normal, here's a new story, here's a new way of doing storytelling. I'm in the cutscenes now in certain cutscenes. I didn't used to be in WoW. Used to be, you only focus on the big lore characters, not me as a player. Now they're trying to do the 14 thing for certain scenes and showing you standing next to the important people. So again, like there's been improvements. There's been change. And okay, I'll go play WoW, guys. I will absolutely take your advice.
Some of them are trolling you.
I know. It's just fun.
But yeah, so
I'm gonna play right now.
I mean, so as an end note here, because we've gone a little bit long. I mean, looking at FanFest, what are like the biggest things we would need them to announce for us to feel like they actually understand what we want and need from this game? And will they actually understand their announcements and actually, when they say battle changes, actually give us battle changes?
I think
more
it's all
better and harder content and less things like Eureka.
Right, but like.
At least Eureka was different, though. I want to give them kudos because Eureka is something that it was not in this game. The battles, like everything in it is different, and they did try something new. Like, they did. But then they did say after Animos, oh, Pagos is going to be so much different. You're going to spawn all the NM so much differently. And that wasn't the case at all.
Right. I think the biggest thing, though, if you want to drive down to the details, is not just more content, not just better content. That's kind of generic. Like, what you really need to drive at is you want them to be able to create content that's going to be varied enough that enough players will participate, have rewards that are good enough that people are motivated to do it, and at the same time you need to cater to like casuals and hardcore, right? So if they can make dungeons great again by doing something like Mythic Plus, or maybe they'll come up with something different or possibly even better than Mythic Plus. I don't know. Square's surprised me occasionally, not lately, but occasionally.
Yeah, sure.
They could do something like that. If they want to take Fates, they already have a World Quest-like system, and the benefit is Square has it all over the world. Blizzard right now
True.
only put it in the end game zones for Legion and BFA, and they experimented with 1 or 2 other zones. They haven't put world quests.
Right, they could implement
every
this for
zone.
leveling characters
Right.
too. Yeah.
Right, exactly. If they can put take fates and make them give realistic rewards and do a little bit more than just kill X, collect X, like some of the WoW ones are actually mini games like matching turtle seashells and silly things. So or like shooting. Today I had to shoot seagulls and crabs to make sure the turtles got to the water because they were babies.
Oh.
So like yeah, so like whatever. Like my point is, if you can take fates, tweak them a little bit, and give them real rewards, and maybe make them spawn slightly more often depending on the zone. They have that system. They're halfway there. And it doesn't even need to be that would be like a complete ripoff of World Quest. I would rather see Square innovate and do something even better. But I'm saying if they have no time to do that, at the very least, keep up with your competition. Do something similar.
Yes. I don't have anything else to add other than yes. Like, and I just feel like, I don't know if Yoshi is just disconnected or if he just doesn't, or they don't, and I don't want to like try to give them the benefit of the doubt and be like, oh, they have a small team. Because I feel like, like you said before, Blizzard could take people from the Overwatch team and stick them there. I feel like Square Enix is spread so thin, people with Kingdom Hearts, people with FF7 Remake, people with 14. I feel like they don't necessarily have the staff to be like, let's take people from this other game and stick them on this game. And I don't know how, I don't necessarily know how much they can do with that. But
I heard the Final Fantasy VII Remake team is 2 years behind.
Yeah, I mean, they've basically started over from scratch at this point, so I'm not even
I
thinking
don't
about that
think
game anymore.
Square Enix is the best at people management.
Yeah,
So that was, to be fair, that was a third party. They tried to outsource it. It didn't work out. And
they tried outsourcing to that other company. They didn't like what they were doing. And they actually thought they were working too slow and then nixed them and have basically started over from scratch. So I don't know if that game will ever come out. We do know they've officially, like Nomura officially said that, 7 Remake was announced too early. So
because Nomura's
guys.
Tetsuya Nomura is known for his prompt releases, right?
True, but I mean, at least he realizes that that's a thing. So I'm hoping that 14 doesn't fall into a similar thing. But I mean, they probably don't have as much staff as Blizzard is able to allocate, but I still don't think that's an excuse.
They definitely don't have as much staff, and I'll give them some credit. It's an excuse, but it can't continually be one for years. That's ridiculous. They've been using that excuse for like 2-3 years now.
Right.
If they really wanted to compete,
it should be the reasoning that they then like analyze and figure out, okay, why is this happening and how can we manage our people better?
I worry that for some reason they just view their game and their model and their community as different. And because of that, they're just like, whatever. Kind of, yeah.
All right, I think we're going to have to wrap up our discussion here. We've gotten at least, I don't remember exactly when we started, but we're at least 20 minutes over now. But that good discussion, Strife. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you were able to delve into that a little bit because like I don't want to say like I'm going to go play WoW, but like a lot of those things I feel like would be fantastic type additions to a game like 14, and I just feel like sometimes they're a little disconnected from what we as players need.
And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Always happy to be on the show. Also, remember for later, we're Alliance on US Storm Rage. See you there.
Yeah, that little nice plug. Also, Ion, thanks for being here too. I appreciate you. All the other guys. Oh, I didn't even mention where Juxta was. I don't even know. I think he's working or babysitting his, cute baby. And
making sweet drops.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone in the chat for hanging out with me trying to figure shit out here. So we're gonna wrap up our discussion here. Remember that you can follow the discussion by downloading the podcast on any of your podcast downloading things, following us on Facebook, Twitter. I think we have an Instagram. I don't know how often we use that. As well as emailing the show at hosts@limitbreakradio.com, or always calling in during a show, joining our Discord, and having a good old time. Or if you would like more content from us, you like what you see, go to patreon.com/limitbreakradio and hang out there, get some sweet content like these sweet postcards. Anyway, I guess that's going to be it. Thank you to my co-hosts for the day, Ionsta and Strife, and thank you to all of the listeners. I am Nika Kyanian. Keep listening. Limit Break Radio is a production of limitbreakradio.com and Bender Media Productions. This episode was produced by Nika Kyanian, Juxtaposition, and Strife Lightshade. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. Funding for Limit Break Radio is provided by Miri Kennett, Nexian Theta, Hirsch Firsch, Talon Vieira, and fellow Limit Break Radio listeners. To support Limit Break Radio, visit patreon.com/limitbreakradio. Opening music in this episode from Daniel Lambie. Listen to Man with the Machine Gun and other great tracks at facebook.com/Daniel Lambie Metal Gamer. Closing music in this episode provided by Husky by the Geek. Listen to this and a great Final Fantasy XIV and video game rock covers and original music at facebook.com/Husky by the Geek. In-game graphics for Limit Break Radio's Twitch stream are provided by Diamond Multimedia. Check out their line of AMD graphics cards and other hardware at diamondmm.com. Limit Break Radio and its hosts are solely responsible for its content.